All right, this is the start of day 15 of the Francis Schaeffer Cox trial. Day 15 is 219 pages, so every journey begins with the first few steps. Just got to keep walking, right? My goodness. All right, well, the good news is it's 23 days total, and we're on day 15, so we got 8 days to go. All right, Anchorage, Alaska, Thursday, May the 31st, 2012. Trial by jury, day 15, the Dishonorable Robert J. Bryan. Okay, defendants present, jury present. Okay, if you'll come enter the witness box here and stand and come right up, if you will, into the box, and if you'll face the jury in the courtroom and raise your right hand and be sworn. Harold M. Hume, Jr., defendant, Cox's witness, sworn. The court, thank you. Please be seated. Direct examination, Traverso. Mr. Hume, could you state your name for the record and spell your last name, please? Sorry, I'm going to have a little difficulty in hearing, so yes. Okay, I heard that. You heard that, okay? My name is Harold M. Hume, Jr. And do you want my address? No, that's okay. What town do you live in? I live in Fairbanks, Alaska. Could you spell your last name for us, please? Hume. Thank you. Mr. Hume, can I call you Harold? I'm normally called Hal, but you can. Hal, okay. Call me whatever you want. All right, if you don't mind, I'll call you Hal then. Do you know Francis Schaeffer Cox? I do. And how do you know him? Primarily, I met Schaeffer, if I'm not correct, at church. His father was my pastor. Okay. I believe our first encounter was at church, casually. Okay, could you state your background? I'm approaching 80 years old. How far back would you like me to go? Maybe some of your work history for us, please. I started out as a ranch hand in Montana, out of high school, and I need him just back away from the microphone. The witness, a wedding photographer, could you back away from the microphone a little bit? He's so loud, his voice is distorted. Yeah. I'm sorry, what? Thank you, I just need the witness to back away from the microphone a little bit. It was so loud, his voice is being distorted. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. She doesn't want you quite so close to the microphone. Very good. Mr. Traverso, let's start all over. Could you state a little bit of your work history? Yeah. I started out as a ranch hand in Montana, and I progressed through some retail sales work and went into the Army during the Korean War. I served in Korea at the close of the war. I came home. I was involved in retail sales and photographic equipment. Came to Alaska in 1956. In 1956, I worked as a teamster for Sig World Storage and Transfer in Fairbanks. I entered the University of Alaska about 1957, spent 3 years as a student there, and during that time I worked for BLM, firefighting, and a city police officer in Fairbanks. In 1959, I received an appointment to the Territorial Police. I wasn't able to take that, so I did take an appointment to the Alaska State Police in 1960, went to the first State Police Academy class in 1960, and I served as a state police officer, later known as the State Troopers, until 1975. Okay. And my work there varied from traffic officer to investigations. I served in Anchorage to begin with and served in Ketchikan. I was a resident trooper in Douglas, and then in 1963, I was promoted to investigator, and I served as an investigator in Fairbanks. In 1968, I was promoted to sergeant, and then became a field commander for the outpost in the Northern Division. We had the outpost from Tog Junction to Barrow and from Canadian border to Diamond Islands. So we had 12 troopers to do that job. After that, I took an early retirement in 1975. Went to work in Alaska Pipeline as a resident camp manager. I served there for 3 years at various camps from Tosnia to the northern camps in Galbraith and Franklin Bluffs, and I left Alyeska at the conclusion of that project, of the construction project. I obtained a real estate license, and shortly after that I was asked to serve as the regional director for maintenance and operations at Department of Transportation Public Facilities in Fairbanks. That included the maintenance and operation of 6,000 lane miles of road, 38 airports and all the buildings. It was about $35 million project. Okay. When I left there, I wasn't a very good politician, so I only left there lasted about 3 years, and was replaced politically, and opened my own real estate office, and I operated for about 15 years as a real estate broker, and then I went into retirement. Okay. At some point around 2008 or 2009, did you organize a group of men to meet together and discuss the situation with the economy? I did not organize it, no. Okay. No, during that time period of time, I attended a couple of meetings in Fairbanks that probably 1,000 or more people attended for the Second Amendment, or people who were interested in Second Amendment. Well, interested in the Second Amendment, that's about it. I attended a couple of meetings there. Okay, did you at some point meet with a group of men who were the same ilk as you? In other words, someone with your background, and they decided to discuss the issues of 2008, 2009? Well, I suspect what you're referring to is Schaefer Cox had seen me in these meetings because he participated in these meetings also, and he had invited me to attend a couple of meetings at his home, early morning meetings of a group of, as I recall, probably a half dozen, maybe 8 Christian men. It was a group of Christian people, not from just a church I attended, but from other churches, that men who were concerned with they were concerned with what was perceived at the time as a possible breakdown of our government at different levels. Is that in 2008-9 during the wall? I'd say it was in 2009, as near as I can recall. I'd made no notes. It was just a casual meeting in the morning of discussing what some of us were concerned about, how we would take care of our families if we did have a discussion. You know, I went through the earthquake and the flood, so most of the folks here weren't even here when that happened, and I had the opportunity to observe how government functioned in those situations. And I have to be frank, I'm a little concerned with how what appears to be a solid government can break down very quickly at a time emergency of those types. Okay, when these men come together, did you have there was the purpose of these meetings to have more meetings and eventually maybe form some sort of organization. My recollection was these meetings were of this group, again, a group of 6 or 8 Christian men who were concerned about how do we take care of our families if we do go through or experience a breakdown of government. And not only a government, but you have a breakdown of the provision of services. There were a couple of the fellows that would talk about how we assure that there were going to have coal mining in from Healy, for instance, and to keep our energy system going. How do we do when we no longer have food coming in? Now, again, having been exposed to empty shelves during the earthquake time and during the flood time, now those shelves were replenished within, as I recall, 3 or 4 weeks. But if you have a total breakdown, these shelves may not be refilled and supplied in a reasonable period of time. So these were the kinds of things that we're concerned about, and not that as I think he's asked. I'm going to object to the narrative answer now. I think he's asked the question, yeah, the objection sustained. I'm sorry I didn't hear that now. That's all right. What we wanted, just go by the question and answer. Oh, that's all. Mr. Traverso. Oh, Hal, if I can also explain then, was there any relationship between these group of men in the planning stages as for a militia? As I recall, there was some discussion of the possible need of a militia to protect us from people that, we have gangs in the state now, and the very people are knowledgeable. They know that we have some significant gangs in this community in Alaska. And what do you do to protect yourself from this type of activity? And so the word militia did come up probably a couple times. And I just remember vaguely the word. I remember the Schaefer made the comment, that objection here saying that narrative Traverso maybe not discuss what Schaefer exactly said, but what the purpose of the meeting. He was conducting the meetings, I'm sorry. Yes, were you trying to drive? What was the purpose these men coming together? At what point did you decide to take the next step? The next step being militia? Yeah, the next step after the first meeting, was there another step? Yeah, we had 2 meetings as I recall. It's okay. Yeah, 6 o'clock meetings, probably about a month apart if I recall correct. Okay, do you remember some of the people that were at this meeting? I remember that Les Zerby was there, Schaefer was there. I remember that there was a couple of young fellows. My hearing aid caught me there. Were the Clark boys. Eric Berg was there. I don't know all of them. They came from different churches, and I don't know everybody that was there. I didn't know Les' name until, sometime after the second meeting. At some point, was the group ever concerned about the potential for violence in the community if there was a breakdown? Objection leading, of course. And hearsay, I believe we already had a breakdown. I believe we already a breakdown. Wait just a minute. Well, the question was leading and formed. The objection sustained. Traverso. Okay, were there any concerns other than how you were going to feed your family and how to get fuel if there was a breakdown in government services? Well, yes, I mentioned the gangs and what we would do if you had gangs roaming to take what little you might have, that kind of thing. Okay, and this was a just discussion, you know. Well, isn't there a Millie through your work as a former Alaska State Trooper, and you were aware whether or not there is a militia in Alaska, a state militia? Well, there's the Alaska Defense Force, yes. Okay, and is that, why not rely upon the Alaska Defense Force as a militia to deal with the situations that you're describing? Scrocky, objection, leading, and relevance. The court, the question's leading, counsel. Okay. Was there anything about the organization that said we needed to form a body? Objection, leading. All right, I'll rephrase it. Traverso. What did you men decide to do after, what did you draft any resolutions? What did you decide to do after these meetings to discuss these issues? There was no conclusion to these meetings. There were just general discussion meetings. We didn't form anything. We didn't decide to form anything at those meetings, okay? It was just a general discussion of a group of men. How do we take care of our families if we get into this kind of a situation? Are you familiar with the Alaska Peacemakers Militia? I remember that name being raised as a possible name of a group that Schaefer had talked about possibly forming. Okay. There had been no move forward during the meetings to form, as I recall. This is a few years ago, and okay, and my participation was pretty limited. Okay, that's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Hume. Okay. Cross-examination by evil reptile, reprobate Scrocky. Good morning, Mr. Hume. Good morning. I assume you've been in the witness box before, being an Alaska State Trooper, a time or two. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks for your service. Just a couple of questions for you. You mentioned you attended 2 meetings. Well, I probably attended more than that. I attended the Second Amendment meetings, just sitting in the audience. I attended the 2 meetings, and I think there was a 3rd meeting. That wasn't one of those early morning meetings. It was a mid-morning, as I recall, and at that meeting, Schaefer had some shirts that he passed out, and I have to tell you, at this point, I was not involved in any formal activity of the formation of a militia. Okay, I understand that, and okay, I just wanted to ask you one more question. Yes, on those meetings, Mr. Hume, who led the discussion on those meetings that you attended? That would be Schaefer, all right. But it was generally everybody participated. It was just a discussion. It wasn't something. It was, one person speaking. Okay, but generally Mr. Cox was the one leading the discussion points. Yes, he called the meeting, yes. All right, thank you, Mr. Hume, you bet. Traversal, thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, no further questions. The court, questions from counsel, no questions, no questions. All right, thank you, Mr. Hume. You may be excused. You may call your next witness. You didn't like that big box, huh? I thought it might be somebody getting your witness. Yes, Your Honor. They're coming, Your Honor. Sir, could you please come up to the booth here, the witness stand? You'll enter the witness stand there and stand, and if you face the jury in the courtroom and raise your right hand and be sworn. Leslie Paul Zerby, defendant Cox witness. Traverso, thank you. Be seated, please. Direct examination. Traverso. Could you state your name for the record, Mr. Zerby, and spell your last name? Leslie Paul Zerby, Z-E-R-B-E. Okay, Mr. Zerby, could you tell us what kind of work you do, please? Well, it's a little bit of this and a little bit of a list here. That's all right. I'm an ordained minister, so I have been a minister in Africa, a missionary pilot in Alaska for 30-some-odd years. Since 1980, we fly for missionaries up here, as well as a lot of Eskimo and Athabascan Indian teenagers to camp in the summertime. Okay, we started a counseling service in the University of Alaska. We're trying to put together right now, as we speak, a home for what we call alcohol orphans, state of Alaska. Okay, I organize Christian sportsman clubs across the nation. I'm an assistant guide in the state of Alaska, and presently I've been in as a general manager of a new gold mine that's operating in Alaska. Okay, and you fly an airplane? Yes. And do you know Francis Schaefer Cox? Yes. How do you know him? I knew him first as a young man when he came to our church when he was running for public office. Okay, and I was, as well as the whole church, very impressed with his objection, non-responsive to the answer. Traverso, this Scrocky guy's a sorry bastard. I hate Scrocky. Hey Scrocky, if you're listening, you know God has perfect and divine justice, Scrocky, and all the evilness that you did and all the evilness that you perpetrated in your lifetime, God's going to let it all come back on you, brother. And I can't wait! Can't wait for vengeance to come upon Scrocky from the Lord. All right, let's move on. Okay, where were we? Objection, non-responsive to the answer. Traverso. The objection sustained. Traverso. Just answer the question, okay, Mr. Zerbe? Just with a specific. Please restate the question. I just want to know if you knew Mr. Cox and how you knew him. Well, I knew him through his presentation of his platform. Okay. As a running person running for office. Okay. At some point, did you get involved with the Second Amendment Task Force? Yes. And can you tell us how and when you did that? Well, there was just a meeting that was announced, okay, and I decided to attend it because generally, looking for the NRA proceedings and so on, of which I'm a member, it was brought to our attention that there's generally an assault on the Second Amendment, okay? And so well, let's not get into that right now, but okay, there was a meeting over the Second Amendment. You attended that? Yeah. Who called that meeting? I don't recall for sure, but I would assume it would have been Schaefer, okay? Mr. Cox, at some point there was a discussion of a potential militia being formed. I don't recall at that particular meeting. Okay, were you involved in the formation of the militia? Yes. Can you tell us about that, please? How many hours do I have? No, you don't. No, you don't have that. I just want to know, just very, very concise. Could you just explain when did the militia start, or the militia that you're talking about, or about to talk about, when did that start and who was involved? The militia was basically started, from my point of view, fundamentally, from my standpoint, the reason I was interested in joining such a thing was because, generally speaking, I can see American society. Objection, non-responsive. Traverso, just talk. The court. Sustained. You notice how this evil son of a gun judge, he never overrules Scrocky. All of Scrocky's crap is sustained. You ever freaking notice that? The freaking judge probably can't even hear what the hell's being talked about anyway. Traverso, just talk about your militia. Don't talk about, opinions. You can't talk about your opinions. Of course, the prosecution has just had how many freaking days? I lost count. I lost count of how many days they've had to put BS after BS after BS after BS. But you get one little supporter of Schaefer on the stand. Objection, objection, sustained. Don't give your opinion.
What about the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but
Yeah, I thought the guy, that's right, babe. I thought he swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. But he gives anything that's considered positive to Schaefer. Objection, objection. Don't allow anything positive to be said about Schaefer. Objection, objection. And freaking credible. Just talk about the militia. Don't talk about, opinions. Just talk about why you got involved in the formation of them. Can't have him share his opinion because we saw law and order break down in America. Okay. And we wanted to somehow, just like the muskox do when they see themselves in big danger, they form a circle and they decide to somehow protect themselves. Okay, what kind of militia? Was this militia set up to be violent, non-violent? Can you tell us something? What was the purpose of this militia? What was other than what you just said? It was strictly set up to be non-violent. Okay, non-aggressive. And as the little patch we wore on our little shirt said, defend all, aggress none. Okay. And we meant that every fiber of our body. It was run by mostly Christian. Objection! Sustained! Go by the question! Only answer that question, please! He can't freaking tell you that it's mostly Christian? Are you freaking kidding me? The more I read this crap, the more angrier I get. Let me read that part over again. We got Les Zerbe, who was asked to tell a little bit about the militia. And Les Zerbe says, and we meant that with every fiber of our body. It was run by mostly Christian. And then that reptile son of a bastard, Scrocky, that drug addict piece of crap, says, objection! And then that old fart who got a freaking hearing aid, who can't hear crap, who just brought in to be a kangaroo court, sustained. Go by the question and answer here, please. He can't tell everybody that it's mostly Christian. Are you freaking kidding me? I don't know how I can get through reading this crap without having a freaking heart attack. Oh, I said I was gonna read it calm, and I can't read it calm. I can't do it. I told my wife, because there's been several times I've had to start over, and I said, I said, I need to read it calmly. And she said, yeah, you do, because people are going to think you're crazy. But every time I read it, man, it's like, this is just insane. It's insanity. So let's start over again. Let's there be. And we meant that with every fiber of our body. It was run by mostly Christian. Scrocky. Objection! The court. Sustained. Go by question and answer here. The witness. Okay. Traverso. Okay, when did the first meeting of the militia, Alaska Peacemakers militia that you're discussing? I couldn't precisely tell you. What was the name of the militia? Alaska Peacemakers militia. Okay, was Francis Schaefer Cox involved in this with you? Sure. Okay, where did the militia form? What city did it form? Fairbanks, Alaska. Okay, and what was the reason for forming this militia other than what you said? You said that there was a breakdown. What was the immediate concerns of you and or the group? As I recall, the immediate concerns were 2008, America being in a deep, deep trouble economically, and I spent many years in Africa and had lived through Scrocky. Objection! Non-responsive! Objection! Traverso. You can't get into that. Just talk about, it's like, what happened in the United States? What you're saying was reason for your motivation for being able to be part of this militia. Well, just address that. It's the same reason, please. We have the same thing happening here as what happened to me before, in which case the economy was so bad that it caused civil unrest in the country, that it was so bad that it caused peaceable and well-meaning people to have to either flee for their lives or make serious plans for survival. Okay, all right. How many people were involved in the Alaska Peacemakers militia when you joined? I don't know exactly, but probably 35 guys, somewhere in that neighborhood. Okay, were there any trainings? Yes. Where was the training? Different places, but just in the immediate Fairbanks area. Okay. Now, at some point, how long were you actually involved in militia? How long were you involved in it? The best of my memory, about a year. Okay, and during that year, do you recall ever going to, say, the summer of 2010, going to the Pikes Landing with Schaefer Francis Cox? Yes, I do. Can you tell us the purpose of going there, of going there was for? It was relatively obscure in the beginning, okay, but there was a call to Schaefer, as I understand, Mr. Cox, that this gentleman I did not know at all, and I don't think Mr. Cox knew at the time. Objection! Hearsay! Speculation! Objection! Scrocky, you're the piece of biggest crap I've ever seen in my freaking life. When hell, death, and destruction come upon you, I am going to be yelling vengeance, vengeance, vengeance on your sorry ass. Traverso. Okay, just talk about your personal knowledges. Okay, the court. What was the court? Just wait a minute. The objection is sustained. Of course, Robert Bryan, dishonorable piece of crap, you're going to sustain that reptile objection. The jury should disregard the reference to what Mr. Cox did or did not know. Yeah, disregard any freaking thing that this guy says that Cox is a good guy. Go ahead. Traverso. Okay, what was your understanding of why you were going to Pikes Landing? My understanding was that this gentleman was coming from somewhere to have a meeting with us, to have some kind of answer, some sort of, who knows what the answer was about, but we didn't know what it would be about, the discussion, even really as far as I know, but the gentleman supposedly had resources, his own style, soldier of fortune. Objection! Narrative! Traverso. Okay, just let me, speculation! Let me ask a question. Can we strike, this is Scrocky, can we strike, move to strike the answer? No, go ahead. You got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. Hey, Scrocky, your time's coming, buddy. Your time of hell, death, and destruction is coming, and I'm going to be yelling vengeance. I can't stand reading this crap. Man, it's freaking painful to read this crap and see that bastard. Settle down, Rudy, and just keep reading. Oh, Traverso. Who was the gentleman that you were supposed to meet? His name was Bill Fulton. Okay. And if you can give your response very short, sure. And what? Try to. The question is asking here, what do you understand this meeting to be about? That this man, Bill Fulton, was able to supply possibly training to our guys, possibly more militia members. I did not know exactly what it was about, okay? We didn't find out until we got there, okay? What was the reason for him offering those kinds of things? Scrocky. Objection! Hearsay! Speculation! Traverso. Well, let me ask. And foundation. Objection! The court. Sustained. Of course it's sustained. You evil bastard reprobate from hell. Traverso, do you understand what's your response to the things that he was offering? My personal response was I immediately suspected a startup because these kind of people don't just come up out of the blue. Okay, stop right there. Affirmative. What made you suspicious? What made you suspicious was the remarks of Bill Fulton to us, okay? What also made me suspicious was the fact that he was drinking heavily there in the okay room. Okay, were there other people there? As I recall, it was me, Schaefer Cox, and one other gentleman. Okay, all right. Did you see the gentleman again? Yes, when? It was a meeting. It was at a meeting a little bit later on, I think the next day, a little store, and there used to be called Blondie's, okay, in the middle of Fairbanks Town, and now it was Aaron Bennett's. Oh, what's the name? It's a gun shop where he sells all kinds of weaponry and so on and like that. Okay, I'm going to stop here on page 26, and I know I get excited, but it's just, you can't, anybody who can't see the injustice of what's going on through this whole trial, you got to be absolutely blind. Okay, let's pick up with page 26. Okay, who did you go there with? I went there by myself on my motorcycle. Okay, and what was going on at Blondie's the next day that you decided to go there? Well, I heard about the meeting the next day because it was set up the previous day in the hotel. Okay, and who called that meeting? As far as I could recall, it was Bill Fulton that called the meeting. Okay, and you went there with Schaefer at the meeting at Blondie's the next day? I did not go there with him. I went there to see him and see what the meeting was all about. I went there by myself on the motorcycle. Okay, at some point did Schaefer show up? Yes. And did you see Mr. Fulton there? Yes. Who else did you see there? I saw gentlemen there that were taking away our cell phones at the front door, and I saw some other gentlemen that I had never been in Bennett's shop before. I'd never seen them associated with Schaefer before, and they looked very clean cut to me. Okay, right there. Affirmative. When you were there, was there some sort of activity going on? What was going on at the Blondie's when you went there? Well, the meeting, as I understood it, was by itself at this time, but it was associated with some kind of a sale or something going on there. A fundraiser? Yeah, fundraiser. Okay, do you know who the fundraiser was for or what it was about? I do not recall at this time. Okay, did something transpire at this? There was a meeting at Blondie's, yes. Was that after the events that occurred that day, or as far as the fundraiser? Was that at the conclusion of the day? What time of day was that? The best my memory serves me, it was at the conclusion of this. Okay, what did you and your Mr. Fulton talk about? I didn't talk about hardly anything. I just sat there quiet, observing the whole situation and believing in my own mind that it was a setup. Okay, because the soldier? Scrocky, objection, narrative. Hey, Scrocky, I guarantee you, when you're suffering in hell forever and ever, there's going to be like people yelling the word objection all around you. I can guarantee you. Objection, narrative, sustained. You can't just throw your opinion in there, Mr. Zerby. Just answer the question. I asked you what was meeting about that transpired. It was a meeting where Bill Fulton was asking some questions. Let me just say that they're not letting Zerby throw his opinion in there, but they certainly let these freaking experts from the FBI who's written manuals and supervised, and they're a special agent, they let them give their opinions on whether he had explosive devices. But Zerby can't give his opinion on whether it was a setup. Insane. I asked you about the meeting, what transpired. It was a meeting where Bill Fulton was asking some questions. And one of the key questions that he asked, objections, hearsay. Traverso, okay, I was there. Wait, I heard it. No hearsay about it. Well, it's coming. That's what hearsay is. Okay. Mr. Zerby. And I can rephrase the question. Yeah, let's. Traverso, so he can answer it, Your Honor. What's the next question here now? Did something happen to you while you were there with Mr. Fulton? Yes, he asked the question of Mr. Cox, and I, who were standing right beside Mr. Cox, and he wanted to know did we have a plan? What was Scrocky? Objection, hearsay. Man. I'm just thinking about how Scrocky's going to burn in hell, and like all the people yelling objection around him. The court, no. The witness, no hearsay about it, I heard it. There. Wait. The witness, I was there. Don't make. The witness, okay. Gratuitous comments. I understand, okay. Mr. Zerby, we have to go question by question here. Answer here. Okay. Try and. I thought I was answering it, but I just don't know. Traverso, okay. How to answer it. Well, you know, if somebody asks you what time it is, the witness, yes, sir, don't tell them it's 11:20 and it's sunny out. Because nobody because nobody asked you about the weather. If somebody asks you what time it is, don't tell them it's 11:20 and it's sunny out, because nobody asked you about the weather. Okay. Okay, so try and just limit. I'll do I'll do my best. Your answers to the question. All right, Traverso. I might say, so the jury understands this, we communicate differently in court than you do in ordinary conversation. So it's not a black mark on somebody because they communicate like you ordinarily would in ordinary conversation. We have different rules, all right? Now let's get back to the question, because I can't hear anything that's being said, and I'm a deaf judge, and I'm railroading this innocent man into prison. You gotta be kidding me. Traverso. Okay, did something happen to you when you were meeting with Mr. Fulton? Mr. Fulton wasn't happy with my answer to him. Is that we had no plan, and he came at me with a knife. He assaulted me. Okay, was that after you told him there was no plan, or exactly? Okay, what do you understand? Without saying what he said, what was your personal knowledge or understanding of what he was seeking? Speculation, Your Honor. That's from Scrocky. I can think of a lot of evil things that needs to happen to Scrocky once he gets to hell. The court overruled. Traverso, you can answer the question. I thought that by assaulting me in this particular way, and by phrasing the question as he did in the particular way that he was trying to force an answer from us, and would prove there was some kind of conspiracy afloat. Okay, was this having to do with anything with the Alaska Peacemakers Militia? Was this comment directed at the Alaska Peacemakers Militia or to you individually? It was directed, I think, primarily to Schaefer, but I also believe we were standing very close together, and he knew that Schaefer was. Objection, that calls. Traverso, okay, just Scrocky, that calls for speculation. Just please keep your answer to what. Okay, okay. All right. When you said there, did you raise your hand or do anything physical to this gentleman? No. Okay, did you have any understanding yourself of what it was that was his purpose that he was trying to convey to you? I'm sorry, Your Honor. Again, it calls for speculation. The court, no, it calls for the witness's state of mind. Will you please repeat the question, please? Mr. Traverso, what did you understand his purpose in telling you this plan? What was it that you understood? I personally understood that it was a very leading question. No. What was it that you didn't? What did you understand that for just said that he hit you, he assaulted you? Yes. How did he assault you? By really raising his voice at me, okay? And he'd been apparently drinking about 10 beers there. Okay? But I felt that he was very, very sane and, okay, hadn't drunk any of it. He was just making believe he was drinking it or something. Okay? Which also led me to believe that it was a setup. Okay? And so therefore, objection!
Was Schaefer ever drinking?
I don't think so. Mr. Scrocky, I move to strike the whole just statement. It's talk. Scrocky, hey, the court, no, Scrocky, Mr. Traverso, just a second, and I'll, Traverso, sorry. The court, the motion to strike is denied. Scrocky, what, okay. The court, the next question, Traverso, what was it that he was saying that in your mind prompted that had something to do with the assault? What was it that you understood what was going on? I mean, did someone strike you for no reason? No. Out of the blue. Why do you think he struck you? Because Scrocky. Mischaracterization. Scrocky's jumping in again. Hey, Scrocky, I hate you, man. I absolutely hate your guts. And Lamero, I don't like you either. Traverso. What did you understand the reason for him striking? Was he mad at you? Did he express anything to you? I object to the form of the question. This is Scrocky again. I object to the form of the question. There's no evidence he was struck. Traverso. Okay. I believe he said assault. Traverso. Okay. Traverso. Well, you were assaulted. How were you assaulted other than raising your voice? Was there anything else that happened? Well, he approached me. He came toward me. Okay. With a weapon? With a weapon. Okay. What kind of weapon? I was looking in the man's eyes to see how serious he was about harming me. And I did not clearly see the weapon, although I was told it was a knife. Scrocky. Move to strike, hearsay. Traverso. Okay. You didn't see any? The motion to strike is denied. Okay. Have you had any dealings with Mr. Fulton before? Never. Okay, all right. Now, did you belong to an organization called the Sons of Issachar? Yes. Oh, I hate these prosecutors, man. Okay, when did you belong to that organization? And can you perhaps tell us when, in conjunction with the formation of Alaska Peacemakers Militia, did that occur? I believe, if my memory serves me right, it was at the beginning of the whole thing, and it was before we actually probably put any kind of serious, and there really wasn't ever a serious militia. But it was at the very beginning. Most of the men, and they were in my formative group, claimed to be Christian men who espoused Judeo-Christian ethics. And because of their concern for the future of their families, based upon the society that was falling apart as they perceived it, they decided that before you could form any group of people or concerned men, we would follow the Old Testament example of sons of Issachar, quoted there, which were men of Israel, as I understood it. At that time, were older men who understood the signs and the times. Okay, was the sons of Issachar, can you tell us some people that were names of people who were involved with that? Oh, I wasn't a names keeper, and I didn't know very many of those guys there, and I didn't keep lists and all that. Oh, okay. But it was me and Schaefer, and I think there's a gentleman out there. Okay. That is to testify in this trial. That's part of it. Okay, all right. Now, did Mr. Fulton make any threats to anyone at Blondie's place other than yourself? He may have, but I was very concerned about the threat to me personally. Okay, so that's what I was concerned with at the time. Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Zerby. That's all you got? That's all for maybe have questions from counsel. Sure, okay, Scrocky. Here comes Scrocky. Defense counsel first before government cross, Your Honor. Well, probably that's the appropriate order. Cross-examination. Mr. Dooley. Mr. Zerby, I'm Tim Dooley. We've met. Yes. Coleman Barney was at Blondie's at Far North Technical, as far as you know. I do not recall him being there. Thank you. No further questions. Miss Hayden. Mr. Zerby, are you a member of Alaska Peacemakers Militia? Is that correct? Yes, that's correct. Okay, what was your rank? Second in command. Is that the colonel or lieutenant, or I think it was like a lieutenant colonel, for whatever that means in our little group, yeah. Okay, was there something called a command staff? If there was, I don't think we referred to it very much. Well, did certain high-ranking members of the militia meet separately from the rest of the other members? Yes, once in a while. And do you know Lonnie Vernon? Yeah. Do you know what rank Lonnie Vernon was in militia? I don't recall, but I wasn't the record keeper. It's been quite a while ago, but I don't recall. But okay, he wasn't, I don't think, in the very, very top of it at all. So he wasn't a high-ranking member? I don't think so. Do you know if Lonnie attended the meeting of the high-ranking members? I don't think that he did. I don't recall any meeting that he was in in that fashion. That's all I have. Thank you, sir. Okay. Mr. Scrocky. Hello, Mr. Zerby. Hello. I think yesterday I might have seen you outside in the hallway. Yes. With an Alaska Peacemakers Militia Training Manual? Yeah. There's a couple of things in there listing like a grenadier and a full auto guy in that manual. Could be, I don't know. I only read the first. I don't remember what was in there. I haven't read it for a year, so I don't know what is in it. Have you read it? Yes, in the past I read it. So you can't tell the jury what your understanding of a grenadier or a full auto guy was? A grenadier would be a guy who would have the ability to know something about grenades, I would imagine. And how about the full auto guy? A full auto guy would be somebody in our group. He would have to be somebody legal that would have an automatic weaponry certification. He would have to be legal? Yeah. Because you have to register a machine gun with the ATF, right? Yeah. Pay a tax stamp? Yeah. You know about those things, right? Yeah. You're an NRA member? Yeah. Did you tell the FBI a little while ago you have an AK-47 in the back of your car? Yeah. You like to carry that with you? Not always, only when I go to shooting range. Or to the store, you were going to say. But you pass a store, and when I stop at a store, I don't take it home first before I stop at a store, no. Do you carry it back of your car loaded? Yeah. You were asked a lot of questions about this event with Bill Fulton. Affirmative. So you're telling the jury here that you don't know if you had a knife or not because you just didn't see it, did you? As I said, I was looking at the man's eyes, just like when I have a pit bull coming after me. I look in the dog's eyes to see how bad he wants to hurt me. Affirmative. You didn't get hurt, did you? No, but I felt like I was. Affirmative. And you were carrying a gun when this happened, weren't you? Yes. A 35? Yep. Where were you packing that? Just in my coat pocket. So the guy's looking at you, and you got a 45? You don't see a weapon, so you don't think he's coming at you, huh? Yes. Scared you? Yeah, affirmative. So under oath, you never saw a knife? I never saw it clearly. I just knew he had a weapon of some sort, but I did not see what it was clearly. I want you to tell them what you saw in terms of the clearly piece. I didn't see anything clearly, but I just saw that he had a weapon in one hand. All right, so now it's in one hand. What did you see in his hand, sir? I don't know. I don't know what it was because I wasn't looking primarily at his hand. When you're carrying a weapon, you usually carry one hand a little differently than the other. Affirmative. You didn't pull your pistol? No. And you didn't report this to the troopers, did you? No. No. Then you would have had to tell the troopers you were in a meeting where everybody took your cell phones and you're talking about some militia stuff, right? I wasn't concerned about getting the troopers involved because I hadn't had very good luck with talking with the troopers about much anything. Affirmative. And you would have had to report this and they would have asked you a lot of questions, right? They may have, I don't know. You would expect them to, wouldn't you? Probably. Affirmative. About the details and maybe this guy was something you might have seen regarding his knife or not. Most likely. So you're carrying a 45 concealed? Yeah. Do you have a permit for that? Yeah. How long have you had the permit? Oh, I don't know. Many years it's been. It's been quite a while. I think everybody in Alaska now has the right to carry. So I have a right to carry permit, though. But I think it's expired by now. But since somebody in Alaska has to have it now, I don't think I've renewed it. Oh, I see, but it's expired. I believe so. You said you're not a big list guy? No. About who might have attended these meetings for the militia or sons of Issachar. Right. I was not the record keeper. I understand that. Let's see if I can help you with that. Can I have 535, please? Dim the lights. Denali, if we could. Know who Phil Clark is, Mr. Zerby? Yeah. Could we blow up the top half? This is an email in Exhibit 535 for the record from February the 13th of 2010. Can you read for me what it says right there at the top? I've just underlined it. Those names, well, Mike, Eric, indiscernible, I militia. You see there right here? Yeah, what about it? Well, does that refer to the Sons of Issachar militia? I don't think so, but I don't know what that, because I don't think I've seen this paper before. Well, maybe not. Is that your name right here, Mr. Zerby? Yeah. Do you recognize Hal Hume? Yep. Next to his name it says no, correct? Right. Next to your name it says yes, correct? Yes, affirmative. Schaefer Cox right above Mr. Hume says yes, correct? Right. And everybody else says no, correct? Affirmative. Can you back us out? Did you attend this meeting on February the 13th of 2010, or you don't remember? I don't really recall. No? Just too long ago, I mean. If my name was on it, maybe I did. I don't recall. Could this have been a meeting about whether... Oh, February 210. Affirmative. Okay, I believe I was in the lower 48 at the time. I believe I was. We left the fall of 2010 and stayed out until like April. Oh, so this must have been some other Les Zerby voting yes. Do you have a twin in Fairbanks with the same name? No. Did you have occasion, Mr. Zerby, to sit in on an interview with Mr. Cox with a young reporter from the East Coast with glasses back in Denny's? You guys had breakfast? I don't recall it. No. Let me put up a little clip for you. See if you recall. Okay. It's going to be 916-01. Miss Hayden. Your Honor, I'm going to object. If he wants to refresh Mr. Zerby's recollection with this, that's one thing. But if he wants to play it... Scrocky. I'm in the process of trying to lay the foundation for it. The court. Is this an exhibit that's been admitted? Scrocky. It is not. I'm just going to put up the screen and stop it so we can see the circumstances of it. See if he can recall. What's the number again? What's this number again? It's going to be 916. And we have 3 clips from it. The clerk, thank you, Mr. Scrocky. Scrocky, if we get there 1, 2, 3, side conversing, Mr. Scrocky, is your monitor active, Mr. Zerby? Yeah. Do you see yourself in there? Yeah. And who's next to you? Mr. Cox is one of them. Okay, and who's the guy to the left? Do you recognize him now? No, I don't. Well, how about the location? I don't recognize the location necessarily, no. Looks like it's at a restaurant. Affirmative. You don't recognize that as being Denny's in Fairbanks? There's no markings that would let me know that for sure. Well, Mr. Zerby, you live there. Yeah, but I visit lots of restaurants, so I don't know that this would exactly... Okay. I don't know that this would exactly be Denny's. Well, let's back up just a second then. We've got you here. I'm going to circle you. Yeah. Okay, there's Mr. Cox. He's wearing his hat. Right. Yep. You guys are having breakfast? Okay. Okay, you don't recall an interview with this reporter? It's about an hour and some change long. No. You talked about the Assembly or the Liberty Bell? No, because we did interviews at different times with different reporters, AP and different ones, but I don't recall. That's been a long time ago. How long ago? I don't know. Well, so you don't know? Too long ago for me to remember. Scrocky. I'd like to take a break and play this for Mr. Zerby to refresh his recollection. Okay, we'll take a break. Or play the 3 clips. Pardon? Or at least play the 3 clips so he, court, hear himself. Yeah, you can be excused for a minute, folks. The court. If we could play the 3 clips, Denali, could we have the lights, please? Next clip, please. Next clip, please. Traverso. I guess I don't know what he's refreshing the recollection of what. That he was with Mr. Cox. Well, at some point let's wait for the next question. Scrocky. Do you remember the interview with Mr. Zerby? No, it's been too long ago. That's you right there, right? That's me. You're the number 2 in the APM militia? I believe I was at the time. This interview with Mr. Zerby is over an hour long. Affirmative. And you're telling this court you don't have any memory of it whatsoever. How about a small bit of memory? Let's start with that. Judge asked and answered. He says he doesn't remember. Well, the court. No, he may answer. I don't recall with any clarity this meeting. Scrocky. Did you attend the television interview with Schaefer Cox? I don't recall television interviews because the only television interview that I know about was when they went to KJNP or something. All right, how about I wasn't part of that. How about reports interviewing him with small cameras? I don't recall that because I wasn't taking notice, I guess, of small cameras. I just remember an AP reporter questioning me about another occasion. And I think Schaefer too. And, well, I don't remember all the stuff he said either, but it was sometime later. But you don't recall a camera and a tripod being set up at the corner table and everybody eating breakfast, Mr. Zerby? No. So you're telling this court you've got no idea when that was or how it had happened? Not in my memory. That was Mr. Cox and on the screen, correct? Yep. That's him talking. I believe so. Let me ask you this. With respect to that's you there, right? Yes, correct. Know what else we could do, Mr. Zerby? We could take a break or get you later. We can play the whole thing for you from start to finish. You can if you want to. But that's Mr. Cox and that's you, yeah. And that Mr. Cox is talking about something with respect to the militia. I'm trying to get a time frame here, right? Okay, I got to stop at page 51. This is getting very boring, and reading Scrocky is very draining on me. Okay, picking up at page 51. You can if you want to, but that's Mr. Cox and that's you? Yes. And that Mr. Cox is talking about something with respect to the militia. I'm trying to get a time frame here, right? Right, yeah. We had so many meetings, various meetings, that I can't recall them all. I understand that perfectly clearly. Okay. But what I'm trying to do is narrow a time frame for when this possibly could have happened. I cannot remember a time frame. Well, just bear with me for a second, Mr. Zerby. Yeah. When did you join the Alaska Peacemakers Militia? I don't even recall that to an exact day at all. It would have been probably around 2009 or something, but I do not recall. I don't keep a record of that. Well, I'm not asking for a paperwork document, sir. And we're not... Right. I just want to know what you recall as when you joined the militia. I'm trying to find out the time frame for when this interview occurred. I would not be able to tell you at all. When did you join the Second Amendment Task Force? I don't even know how you joined the Second Amendment Task Force. We just attended meetings is all I recall. And what would have been around the time frame of this conversation, right? And that would have been around the time frame of this conversation? I do not recall that. Well, let's try it this way. It's not more than 5 years old, is it? No, I can't remember what I had for breakfast today, probably. I'm 66 years old. I don't remember all things, But that was a long time ago, and we went to a lot of different meetings. This is just an interview, right? Right. And so you don't dispute it's you? No. You don't dispute it's Mr. Cox? The picture says what it says. That it was some sort of meeting. The pictures say and that there are 3 people there together and they're discussing something. Affirmative. And so, but where and when and all that, I could not say for sure. Okay, well, let's just leave it at that. But that's you and Mr. Cox, right? Yeah, that's right. Affirmative. And this person's a reporter? I have no idea if he's a reporter or not. Scrocky. We'd offer 916, Traverso. I'd object, Your Honor. He does his, you do know, do you, if he's doesn't remember a date, he doesn't remember the date, and it isn't refreshing his recollection. This is just something the government wants to present. Duly, and I object. Traverso, it's beyond the scope of whatever I asked him, which is Blondie's and Pike's Landing. Scrocky, and I object to the relevance and lack of foundation. Miss Hayden, I would object to lack of foundation. Scrocky, might I respond briefly in terms of the court? Yeah, relevance. This man just testified that we made a peacemakers militia. We're family. We were concerned about our families. And the leader here is talking about killing cops. And we have an identification of who. They're both there. There's no dispute about that. And frankly, Judge, we got brain fade in terms of the court. The only Scrocky specifics. The court. The only thing I'm thinking about here, I guess, is where this is a proper area of cross-examination. And Traverso raised that question. Scrocky. I totally hear you on that, Judge, because I'm a reptilian piece of garbage, human scum, I'm doing everything I can to withhold exculpatory evidence. But the point of the matter is, he did testify that this was something offensive. Defensive. And that we were a family militia. And Mr. Cox here is talking about taking up arms, firing on his own government, firing on police officers who are his friends. And he's sitting here in the box saying, we're a family militia. I think it's fair game for Cross. The court. Well, bottom line is, I think it may be admitted. Miss Hayden. Your Honor, if it's going to be admitted, I would ask for a cautionary instruction because we don't know what the time frame is. And this appears to be Mr. Cox talking on behalf of merely himself and not others. Scrocky. We have no problem with that. Mr. Dooley. And for Mr. Barney also. Scrocky. No objection to that. The court. All right, I'm not going to caution them about time. The evidence is what it is in regard to time, but I will advise the jury not to use this testimony except in regard to the case against Mr. Cox. Let's get to the jury back in here and use the last 10 minutes we got. The court. Counsel, I'm not sure how much foundation was laid before the jury, so I think you should go over foundation and reoffer. Scrocky. Yes, sir. Scrocky. Cross-examination continued. While Madam Clerk is going to be handling out the headsets, Mr. Zerpe, we showed you 3 clips from Exhibit 916. Okay. Yeah. And you saw those? Yeah. And you are depicted in Exhibit 916, and it's a video clip, and you're in there? Right. Mr. Cox is in there? Yeah. And some of the other gentlemen with some pair of glasses, and you don't know who he is? Right. But without a doubt, this is you and Mr. Cox. Right. And Mr. Cox is speaking about the militia? I would assume so. I don't know that he mentioned it specifically, but I would assume that he might be talking about that. Okay. That's Mr. Cox and that's his voice? Yeah. You recognize that? Right. You certain of that? Yeah. And you're not sure as to the location? No. Looks like a restaurant. Looks like a restaurant or a coffee shop or something. Do you have a lot of those in Fairbanks? We have a lot of restaurants and quite a number of coffee shops. Indiscernible and all right, and you're not sure of the time frame, and it's not any further back than 5 years as your best recollect? No, okay, 5 years would put it, what year? Well, right now it's 2012. Right, so that's, right, 27? Right, no, it wouldn't have been then. Did you know him back then? No. No, wouldn't have been past that, no. When did you first meet Mr. Cox? My first meeting with him would have been when he came to run for public office at the church meeting. And when did you become, a lieutenant colonel in the militia? Yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you that. I don't know, I don't recall. Did you have a shirt? Yeah. How many rivets did you have? I don't even recall that. It didn't? Okay, didn't mean a whole lot. But you're sitting next to the table with Mr. Cox while he's talking about this fellow. Yeah. I'm sorry, did you say it didn't mean a whole lot? Is that just what you... Is that what you just said? The whole thing about us having some kind of really serious militia that was out to do something to public officers did not mean a whole lot to me. Because I know we're not going to do that and we're not going to be doing that. Affirmative. Well, what he had experienced was, Mr. Zerbe, yeah, I'll ask you a question when I'm ready. You know, Scrocky, I absolutely hate your guts, man. Okay. Well, talk about some of your thoughts about the militia and some other things in a minute. But let's play the tape first. If we could, we offer 916. All right, 3 clips. 916 may be admitted. However, this evidence is admitted against Mr. Cox only and not against the other defendants. And you should consider the evidence only for that limited purpose, that is, the case against Mr. Cox, and not for any other purpose against any other defendant. Scrocky. If we could have the lights, please. So this, for the record, is 916-1. Audio played. Mr. Scrocky, so that was you, Mr. Zerby? It looked like it was, on the right-hand side. Affirmative. And that was Mr. Cox? Yeah. Stating if you mess with one of us, you have to mess with all of us. That's what he said? I think that's what I heard him say, yeah. All right. Audio played. So that last clip, affirmative. I take it since you sat there and listened and didn't get up and walk away, that you agreed with everything Mr. Cox said? Not necessarily. That's making an assumption on your part. You didn't say anything in opposition to him on the recording there, did you? It's a yes or no answer. I don't know if that's a full recording or not. Well, right then and there, you didn't say anything, did you? Not right then and there. Do you want us to give you the full recording so you can look at it? If you're trying to get me to say what on your question again, would be what? Perhaps rephrase the question. We'll be happy to give you the whole hour-and-a-half long recording, Mr. Zerby, and you can look at it and come back and see if you objecting to any of that. Do you recall? Okay. Doing that, sir? No, I don't recall. I don't recall the meeting. Didn't you just tell us, the jury, that the Alaska Peacemakers Militia was a family militia? I don't know if I told them that. Did I just tell them that? I don't think I told them that. Means you can't remember, or you just don't recall? I don't recall that I just told the jury that we were a family of some sort. Well, tell them what it was. The militia was the Alaska Peacemakers Militia. The Alaska Peacemakers Militia was a group of serious, concerned citizens made up of the average good citizen off the street, made up of physicians, ministers, bookstores owners, hearing aid store owners. Affirmative. What rank did you have in the militia, Mr. Zerby? I eventually obtained the rank of second in command. Well, what's the rank? I think it would be called Lieutenant Colonel. Is that what it was called? We talked about it. I don't have a question for you. Sure. I don't have a question in front of you, Miss Hayden. But Your Honor, he asked him, the witness, Miss Hayden, asked the witness to tell the jury about the militia, and then he cut him off. The witness, yeah, I'm trying. I still have more to say about that if you'd like. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Zerby. The witness, okay, it was a group of men that basically joined together, as I recall, after the 2008 scare that came to the United States that caused all the bailouts and all the stuff, and we felt that the United States economy might totally fail us. And even now, in an article today, the Wyoming Senate and Representative have a bill before them. And it is a bill to help Wyoming make decisions on her own as a state in case the whole federal government, our economy, goes down the toilet. So we felt as a group of men, if that happened in Alaska, being isolated as we are, we would have some serious problems to deal with, including law and order going by the wayside. The prime example that we talked about a lot was Katrina, and that in an instance, it was law enforcement that was a serious problem. In that instance, we saw on television policemen in uniform stealing stuff, looting, along with the rest of the crowd. We also saw some illegitimate shootings that took place. We also saw the confiscation of weapons from good citizens that the courts later said was not allowable. And we saw the special forces people being brought in to take place of the officers who had even shed their uniform and fled. So we said in circumstances like that, which generally happen because human nature being what it is, that we as common citizens would have to do like a bunch of muskox, just get together in a circle and make some kind of defense to where our families would be protected against such a thing. And we felt that we would not have nearly enough law enforcement to protect the citizens of Fairbanks against the serious civil unrest. And we also made the serious study about the militia and found out that the word militia had gotten a very bad connotation over time in America, in the history of America, because there were people who had bad agendas, like the Aryan Nation people. We just don't like black people or whatever, and they had various agendas. We made sure that we had no such agenda. We simply tried to meet with law enforcement people. Most of the time we were shunned, but I would remind the guys that back in the days of the Old West, when the sheriff would run out of good guys to help chase down 20 bad guys, to his one who had arrested cattle or rustled cattle or killed somebody that he simply deputized the good men of the community, and they went after the bad guys and got them. We also recognize very clearly, and it was discussed on a number of occasions, that we are a nation of laws, not a nation of men. And that the men finally, when it comes down to the average citizen, to make sure that law and order is enforced. And we felt, Mr. Scrocky, so you'd take law into your own hands, Mr. Zerby? I'm sorry, Your Honor, Miss Hayden. Traversal, he wasn't finished with his answer. Miss Hayden, he still wasn't finished. Scrocky, well, I think he's been on a narrative for about 5 minutes, Judge. I think it's reasonable to stop it. Yeah, let's get on with the question. Okay, I gotta stop. I gotta stop here on page 64. Every time I read Scrocky, I just get ill. All right, pick up on page 64, try to get to 75. The court, let's go on with the question. Scrocky, so you'd take the law into your own hands, Mr. Zerby? No, sir, not at the first, I see. And it's not taking the law into your own hands? All right, Mr. Zerby. Did you have making law happen when law enforcement doesn't make it happen? Okay, you can maybe debate that outside at some point. Mr. Zerby, did Mr. Cox ever mention the plan 2-for-1 to you? I don't think so. I don't recall that. Have you ever heard any recordings of Mr. Cox talking about the plan called 2-for-1? I read in newspapers and heard all that stuff, yes. Have you heard the recording, sir? No. Were you present at any command staff meetings where the phrase 2-for-1 was ever used? I don't recall that. So it might have happened. It didn't happen. You just don't recall. I can only say that it might have happened based upon information that comes to me from the newspapers and things like that. Well, sir, I'm asking you whether you ever attended a command staff meeting with Mr. Cox or other members of the militia and where 2-for-1 was discussed. I don't recall such a meeting. So does that mean it never happened? That does not mean anything of the sort necessarily. Did you get a cell phone from Mr. Cox? Did I what, sir? Did you ever get a cell phone from Mr. Cox? A cell phone for him? From him? I don't think so. I don't recall that. Do you know in this investigation, Mr. Zerby, that there's paperwork that you to be given a yellow phone from Mr. Cox to communicate with Mr. Cox and other members of the militia? I don't even know what a yellow phone is. Well, it's a cell phone and it's given a code for this is a yellow kind of phone. Objection. Counsel's testifying. Scrocky, I'm trying to help him. I'm trying to understand. Well, what's the question to the witness? Scrocky, did you ever get a cell phone or use a cell phone, Mr. Zerby, to communicate with other members of the militia, Mr. Cox in general? I don't recall that either. And I've always had my own cell phone as far as I know. You haven't shown the jury the third clip of, oops, thank you. I don't know if you're right, I got off, you're right, off topic. Finish the third clip, audio play. Do you recall anything about that conversation? No, sir. The court, counsel, it's about lunchtime. I've been worked through you folks very hard this morning. Follow my instructions about recesses and we'll continue at 1:30. The clerk, all rise. This matter is in recess until 1:30. All rise. His dishonorable, the court, this dishonorable United States District Court is again in session. Please be seated. Where's our witness? He was just here. Just a matter, Judge. Your Honor, I spoke briefly with Mr. Traversal before we started, and the reason I spoke to him was that the next set of defense witnesses, namely Mr. and Miss Rensel, Mr. Gibson, were overheard by Mr. Sutherland and by Mr. Zerby, by the way, out in the hallway talking about mistrials and the effect of mistrials on proceedings. So I advised Mr. Traversal of that and asked that they be counseled not to talk about matters of such, but we just wanted you to know that that was occurring out in the hallway. Okay, Mr. Scrocky, for what it's worth, then we also we're calling, the defense is calling Mr. Fulton next, so he's in our office space right now, so we just asked for a minute after Mr. Zerby leaves to go get him, given that he was in the informant in this case. The court, okay, the witness is coming, he is, all right, bring the jury in. It's hard not to comment when the witness said he was 66. It's affected his memory or something to that effect. The court, all right, you may continue, Mr. Scrocky. Scrocky, yes, Your Honor. Madam Clerk, if we could have the lights, please. Scrocky. Mr. Zerby, before we broke for lunch, I was asking you about a cell phone and a yellow phone. Do you recall those questions? Yes. If we could have 437, please, just blow up. There you go. Do you see your name there, your first name, Mr. Zerby, on the exhibit? Yes. Up at the top? Yeah. Do you recognize that phone number? No, it's been a long time. Do you recall that phone number? No, sir. Do you have an explanation for this jury about why the word yellow is next to your name and the word phone number? I have no idea what the word yellow means. Okay, do you see there's a yellow for Schaefer? Yes, I do. Do you see there's a yellow for Coleman? Yes. And JR, yeah. No phone number, and when you have a MP Steve cell, do you see that? Yeah. So do you don't have any idea what this is all about? No, I have not seen that list. Okay, so you're telling this jury never got a phone from Schaefer Cox? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I do not recall any of that. All right, could we have the lights, and can we have Mr. Zerby 122? 122 is admitted into evidence. Do you have that package there in front of you, Mr. Zerby? Yeah. And there's a driver's license photo in there. Can you see that? Do you want me to open this up, or? No, it might be on the other side. If you flip it over, you can flip it over? Yeah, I see a license there. Yeah, and do you see that photo? Whose name is in there? It says Lonnie Jean Vernon. Do you know Lonnie Vernon? Yeah. Is he in court today? Yeah. And Mr. Zerby, on the back of the exhibit, do you see your phone number there on the yellow piece of paper? Yeah. So that's your phone number, sir. That's my cell phone number, yeah, and my home phone. Okay, and there's a phone number there for Gary Brockman. Yeah, you know Gary Brockman, right? Yeah, he's a militia member. Yeah, rank of sergeant. Well, he was. Affirmative. I left the militia in October 2010, and you did. Yeah, I have nothing to do with it after that. I didn't make any cell phone calls after that. I have nothing to do with it after that. So that's a pretty firm date in your mind, isn't it? Yeah, I think so. You recall that date? Not the exact date, but I've been told by my wife, because I asked her, when did we leave to go outside? Affirmative. And we left, I think, the last part of October and did not come back until about April of 2012, I guess 2011, it would have been. In other words, we were gone the winter from October, the last part, all through December, January, February, March, came back the last part of April. Last part of April, I think so. So these dates are pretty clear in your head. I think that's the best of my recollection. That's when we made the trip. You ever recall texting Schaefer Cox? I don't text, I just make phone calls. But if somebody texts, I don't know. But I don't recall it, no. Is it possible? Anything possible, sir? So if we showed you a text from February 2011 between you and Mr. Cox, that would be something you guys would have communicated back and forth. Maybe. Don't know till I see it, and I can't. And it can be proved that it was my text. Kind of like a videotape. Kind of like the videotape we played you. Play it. Let me ask you. You were interviewed by the FBI before coming into this proceeding. Yeah, affirmative. You told them you don't like the TSA, right? Got a strong feeling against the TSA? Most Americans have a strong feeling against the TSA. Oh, so you're speaking for a lot of people, a lot of Americans. Affirmative. And how deep is that concern for you for TSA or dislike? Ms. Hayden, objection, relevance. The court overruled. Witness, the concern is not any deeper than any of the law enforcement today. It's kind of like we're the statue and they're the pigeon. Mr. Scrocky. Is that what you think? It's a top-down thing now. It's where it's not a user-friendly, citizen-friendly situation too much anymore. It's kind of like we must be in control situation, and it's quite distasteful to a lot of Americans. It's on the news almost every day in one way or another. So I think I asked you had a strong feeling about the TSA. We want our country safe, but the way they're going about it is very adolescent compared to what Israelis do, for example, or something. So you studied the Israelis a little bit. Mr. Cox has studied the Israelis, hasn't he? I don't know. Mr. Cox doesn't like the TSA either, does he? I don't know. You never had any discussions with him about how he dislikes the TSA? I do not recall any of that. No, I haven't. Is it possible that could have happened? I would not say it's possible. I would not say it's possible, no. Are you familiar with the defense strategy of the Israeli defense strategy, 1 for 1, Mr. Zerby? No, sir. Never heard of that before? No, sir. Don't know what it is? No, sir. I just know that they profile people coming through the checkpoints instead of putting 6-month-old babies up there and checking them out, and they are obviously with their grandmother from Nebraska. It sounds like you've got a personal experience with that. I have watched in total disgust at some of the things going on in the airport that thousands and thousands of Americans have. Even some of our congressmen and senators have been embarrassed to death by the treatment of the TSA at them at the airports. Mr. Zerby, I'm not going to argue with you about that. That's not okay. That's not why we're here, sir. Yeah, I respect your opinions, but that's not why we're here, okay? I have one final thing, Mr. Zerby, okay? With respect to that video clip we showed you, those 3 clips, yeah? Affirmative. You're Mr. Cox's number 2 in command, yeah? Never once did you counsel him that what he was saying was a bad idea, did you? I do not recall. But we have a command structure, and we have all kinds of conversations back and forth, this and that. But how many years ago was that? So, well, you're going to tell, it's a long time ago. You're going to tell us, but you had a command structure, so you're just going to listen to your commander? That's mostly correct. That's what happened in Nuremberg, huh? Yes, and in that's all the questions I have. Affirmative. The court redirect. Mr. Traverso, yes. Redirect examination. Mr. Traverso, you have gone from October 2010 to April of 2010. Yeah, and right in there. Yeah. Were you not involved with the militia at least at that time? No, I was decommissioned and someone else was put there, I guess. Okay, and you were out of the state during that period of time, the whole time. Okay, and you were not communicating with Schaefer Cox at all? Not at all. During that period of time, I recall I was totally on the road, totally busy. Okay, you have some sort of business or something that you were doing in Florida, or you were on vacation? No, I have a church sponsorship, I see. That helps me with my efforts to help the native people of Alaska, I see. And so on, and I have to go make reports to these churches from time to time. Oh, I see. So that's what I was doing. All right, I think I have no further questions. Oh, wait a minute, one more. There is one more question. Yeah, so did anybody raise the phrase 2 for 1 for you prior to your departure in October of 2010? No, thank you, no further questions. The court, anything else? Okay, you may be excused. All right, thank you. Do I leave this here or take it to the... Yeah, just leave it there. Okay, that's fine. You mentioned it going to take a minute to get the next witness. How long? 2 minutes at the moment. He's right. Oh, down the hall in our office. Okay. Your Honor, Mr. Zerby's still in the court, but we'd ask to be excused in case we need to recall him. The court, okay, yeah, we'll ask you to step out. All witnesses are excluded until their testimony is entirely completed, including any possible rebuttal testimony that they might offer. I might tell you that's not just my rule, that's a court rule. That's on anybody's request, and any trial witness are excluded. And if you'll step right into the jury box, please remain standing if you'll face the jury, the courtroom. And right and be sworn. William Fulton. Oh my goodness, it's a son of Belial, sodomite lover himself, Bill Fulton. Thank you. Please be seated. Direct examination, Mr. Traverso. If you just state your name for the record and spell your last name, please. William Fulton, Fulton, and I love sodomites. I'm a big sodomite lover. Mr. Fulton, I've never met you before, have I? Not that I know of, sir. Okay, if we can get right to the skinny. Do you work? Do you have a business in Anchorage, Alaska? No longer, sir. Do you have one here in the past? Did you have one here in the past? Yes, I did, sir. What kind of business was it? We had a retail location. We have provided certain security services, sir. Okay, what was the retail location? It was a retail military surplus store called Drop Zone, sir. Okay. Were you ever in the meeting with the government regarding Schaefer Cox? Did you ever at some point, did you work for a government at this point? I still provide services to the government, sir. Okay, were you working in the summer of 2010, that is June of 2010, as an informant for the government? I believe so, yes, sir. Okay, and were you getting paid by the government? I was being reimbursed by the government, sir. Okay, and were you getting paid by the government for your services? I was being reimbursed for the money that I spent. Okay, reimbursed for what money did you spend? If it was a hotel room, fuel, things like that, sir. And was the drop zone in effect? Was that operating at the time in 2010? Yes, sir. Okay, do you know Aaron Bennett? Yes, I do, sir. Okay, and do you know Francis Schaefer Cox? Yes, sir. Coleman Barney? No, sir. Lonnie Vernon? Yes, sir. Okay, at some point in June of 2010, you were asked to work for the government in an investigation regarding Francis Schaefer Cox. I was asked to meet with him, sir. Okay, and to meet with whom? With Mr. Cox. Okay, and who was your supervising officer with the government? That is, who was the agent that was supervising you on this? That would be Special Agent Sandra Klein. Did you ever have any discussions with this case with any other FBI agent? Yes, sir. Which one? Special Agent Derek Espeland. And I saw another special agent, and I don't know his name, one of the mornings later. Okay, and were you asked to speak with Mr. Cox in the summer of 2010? Would that be June of 2010? I don't know the dates to the best of... Exactly, I would assume that's the correct, but about the time, okay? I'm going to stop on page 81, man. Reading Scrocky and Fulton's going to make me absolutely... All right, picking up with page 81. Yes, sir. What it did you have your business drop zone at that time? Yes, sir, I did. Okay, now were you part of any militia movement in the summer of 2010? I had many associates within the militia movement. I myself was not part of it. Okay, at some point when you said you were asked to meet with Mr. Cox, was that to have a cup of coffee with him, or was there some purpose in mind? Mr. Cox had expressed he wanted us to serve some warrants for him and had expressed that he would like us to come up there and do that for him in Fairbanks. Okay, and the government asked you to go up to Fairbanks for what purpose? No, I was already planning to go to Fairbanks for a sale that Mr. Bennett was having in a store. Okay. And during that time that you were getting reimbursed for expenses, were you getting reimbursed for expenses at the time that you were asked to come to Fairbanks? I believe so, sir. Okay, what prompted you to work for the government as an informant? The FBI or initially? I guess let's start initially. I was in the Army, joined when I was quite young. I swore to uphold the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. It was my duty to do that, sir. Oh, that's a hoot, ain't it? Bill Fulton, the undercover sodomite lover, FBI informant, narc, snitch, rat, fink, decides he's going to defend the Constitution. Okay, when were you in the Army? 92, 12/18 to 2000, sir. And what was your rank when you left? I got out as an E4, sir. Okay, now as a government informant, when were you asked to do that? I don't know exactly the year, but 5 to 6 years prior to the meeting with the FBI. Okay, and meeting with the FBI regarding Mr. Cox? No, I did not meet with the FBI initially regarding Mr. Cox. No, I said before, 5 or 6 years before having this meeting regarding Mr. Cox, to come up to Fairbanks. No, that was a different government agency, sir. What agency was that? The Criminal Investigation Division of the United States Army. Okay, were you working as an informant for them as well? Yes, sir, I was. You're a professional snitch, ain't you, Bill Fulton? Your whole damn life you've just been snitching people out. Okay, was there any time from the period of time that you exited the Army in 2000, the year 2000, to the present date when you were not an informant? Yes, sir. How long was that? A couple of years, sir. Okay. Besides the FBI and the Army, have you worked as an informer for any other government agency? Not. I have provided information to other government agencies. Okay. Have you had any violations of law that you struck an agreement with the government? Any criminal prosecutions that were brought against you that you struck a deal, or potential criminal prosecutions that you struck a deal with the government? No, sir. Okay, when you were asked to come up to Fairbanks in the summer of 2010, you were supervised with Sandra Klein. You said you came up here to meet with Mr. Cox about that. Other than warrants, was that just you were going to talk to him about warrants and meeting in Fairbanks? And I was going to meet, while I came up to Fairbanks to attend Mr. Bennett's event, I was going to meet with Schaefer Cox before the event. Affirmative. And discuss the warrants with him? Okay, and you were carrying a recording device? Yes, I was. Did you record the events at Blondie's over there? No, I did not. Okay, is that a place where you were going to have the meeting? Was it at Blondie's? No, we did not have a meeting at Blondie's. The night after I had the meeting with Mr. Cox, sir, okay, where was the meeting that you talked about, first meeting? Oh, there were 2 meetings or 1 meeting? Yes, sir, there were 2 meetings. Okay, when was the first meeting? Pike's Landing, sir. Okay, and was that also in the summer of 2010, the day before the Blondie's meeting? Yes, sir. Okay, and did you go there by yourself? No, sir. Who did you go with? I brought one of the guys who works for me. Okay, were you being supervised by a federal agent at that time? Yes, sir. Okay, and was there some purpose that you had called Mr. Cox while you were there at Pike's Landing? Yes, sir. Okay, what about the time of day was that? I have no idea, sir. What was the purpose of calling him? To find out whether or not we were going to the meeting or not. Okay, did you discuss any kind of plan with Mr. Cox about starting some engagement? Mr. Cox brought up what they wanted us to do with the warrants. They wanted us to arrest some judges, some other people. We also did fugitive recovery through drop zone, so we were well versed in executing warrants. They were producing these warrants as some kind of common law court. We discussed that. It was something involving his son. Okay, and the Office of Child Protective Services? Okay, so they had a general outline, and one of my tasks was to find out if there was a plan. I asked them at that time if there was a plan. Okay, what kind of plan are you talking about? A plan of what they were going to do, when they wanted us to execute these warrants. What they were going to do afterwards. Okay, there was no talk of warfare or an attack on government or overthrow of the government. I believe there was through that evening. I think that came up once or twice. Okay, and of what the ramifications would be if those warrants were served. Okay, did you at any time discuss with Mr. Cox Was there another man with Mr. Cox? Yes, there was. Mr. Les Zerby was there. Okay. And later he was joined by Jeremy Baker. Okay. Did you have any discussion about you had assets coming up or money that you had spent on trying to get something going? That night would be the next day at Blondie's meeting, not that night. Okay, at Pike's, sir? All right. We'll talk. Let's talk about Blondie's for a minute. Is that Far North Tactical? Yes, sir. Okay, used to be Blondie's and then it became Far. It evolved. I figured you knew what we were talking about, sir. All right. So when you went to Blondie's, what was the purpose there? The purpose there, after our meeting the previous evening, I was very, very concerned about an imminent event happening. Aaron Bennett had scheduled the meeting at Blondie's with the rest of the Patriot community that was up there at that time. It was to figure out that what Schaefer was planning on doing. That sounds awfully vague. Maybe you could clarify for us. Something about Schaefer was up to, something to do with what? With these warrants, and whether or not he wanted us to execute the warrants. Okay, he wanted us to execute the warrants. What exactly was going to happen? How much support he was expecting to get from everyone else involved. What time of day did you get over to Blondie's? I was there in the very morning. That was the day of the show that we originally scheduled to be up there for. Okay, and was there something going on besides you going up there buying and selling? Was there some event happening, a political event, while you were there? I have no idea. I was invited up there to sell. Okay, stuff from my store. Aaron had something going on, but I was there to sell equipment. Okay, you said that what I asked you about at Pike's occurred at Blondie's, so you at Blondie's didn't talk to. At what point did Schaefer? Let me ask this: what time did Schaefer Cox go over to Blondie's? I remember he was late. We all expected him to be there, and he was about an hour and a half late. Okay, I don't know exactly what time. You had prearranged this meeting with Schaefer for, I believe Aaron had. You believe Aaron had, okay. I may have spoken to him too. This was 2 years ago, sir. I know, okay, you're a lot younger than me though. Yes, sir. So in the summer when you had this meeting, when you were waiting for Mr. Cox to show up in the evening, were you talking about Mr. Cox or anything? Yes, sir, I was. Were you talking about him in a negative or a positive light? I had no idea at the time. My vote would have probably been negative. Okay, did you talk about that? Well, let me ask you, what did you talk about? I don't recall exactly word by word what we were, talking about. It was the fact that at that point I was worried enough from the conversation we had the night before that. I was worried that these other groups were going to support this idea of going out and arresting people and hanging them and other such, affirmative, and other such bad ideas. We talked about the fact that Schaefer was willing to do this and involve everyone else with something that was just personal to himself, without really any regard with regard to as the movement as a whole. We talked about the fact that we discovered then, at least I discovered, that he didn't actually have the resources that he'd been telling everyone he had. Affirmative. That was pretty much the way the conversation was going, okay? And like I said, I can't remember every word for word. Well, there was also a split in the Patriot movement, wasn't there? I mean, Schaefer's militia was a little different, say, than some of these other militias, correct? Not necessarily. Affirmative. Well, and what did you understand what the motto of the Alaska Peacemakers militia was? Oh, I understood what the motto was. That just had nothing, that just had nothing to do with what Schaefer was all about. Okay, you thought Schaefer was up to some sort of war? I know that Schaefer was planning on having us arrest and try judges and hang them, yes. Did you discuss with anybody about promoting a confrontation with the government? No, sir. You didn't discuss that with anybody at the Blondie's? No, I told him that I would support Schaefer if he decided to, sir. Did you talk about having spent a lot of money and assets to come up to Fairbanks and you wanted this shindig to go down? No, sir, that's not what I said. Okay, so when you were there, did eventually Schaefer show up? Yes, sir. And what happened? Schaefer likes to talk a lot, so he began one of his normal Schaefer speeches, essentially. Affirmative. To us, most of us had enough of Schaefer's speeches. Affirmative. That were in the room. that we really didn't need to hear it again. Affirmative. And he wasn't talking about what we were talking about the night before. Okay, did you ever discuss with Mr. Cox that or show your frustration with Mr. Cox that he wouldn't go to war over his son Seth, and you wanted him to go to war over his son Seth? Absolutely not, sir. Absolutely not. Okay. Now, when you were there, did something happen between you and Mr. Zerby? Yes, sir. What was that? Mr. Zerby made a statement questioning my integrity. Okay, I was up there on my first assignment with my role that I had assumed with the FBI. I was in a room full of people that would kill me if they knew why I was there. And when he questioned my integrity, I felt that I had moments to deal with it, or bad things were about to happen to me. Did you give? Did you tell? Did you ask Mr. Zerby whether you had a plan? Yes, I did. And he said he didn't have a plan. I believe that was earlier. Yeah, in the conversation, not... Okay, but he said he didn't have a plan. Do you know what the plan was? That was about a half hour prior. I hadn't gotten a full plan out. We talked about it in the evening before that. Affirmative. And I had told them we were willing to help them, but I needed, affirmative, a solidified plan. And that's what the meeting was supposed to be about at Blondie's. Okay, you had to have a plan regarding services of warrants, or a plan regarding confrontation with the government. The services of warrants was the catalyst for the confrontation with the government? Sir, I see. Okay, okay, yeah. Well, at some point, did you get into the altercation with Mr. Zerby? Just verbal. Just verbal. You never reached out for him, lunged at him, did anything to him? I may have moved towards him, yeah. But Aaron was there, and he was between us. It was as controlled as it could be to make it look real. It was controlled by whom? By me. Okay, and did anybody reach out to stop you from moving towards Mr. Zerby? Aaron did. That's why I did it with him in between us. Okay, had you concocted this plan with Aaron Bennett, or no, this was on your own? No, this was all on my own. Okay, all right. Now, did you ever say anything about wanting to cut someone's throat? Yes, sir. Who was that? That was Les Zerby. Okay. Was that at the militia convention down in Anchorage? No, sir, that was at Blondie's. At Blondie's, okay. Was that in conjunction with the altercation that you had with him? That was the verbal altercation I had with him, sir. Okay, all right. You wanted to cut his throat. Did you carry a knife or gun with you at that time? I didn't want to cut his throat. Did you carry a knife or a gun? I had a knife with you. Yes, sir. You did. Okay, and what side did you carry the knife on? My right side or your left side? My right hand side, sir. Okay, and you're right-handed? No audible reply. Okay, now did either Francis Schaefer Cox or Les Zerby tell you that they didn't have a plan to do anything in the government? By the time that meeting ended, yes, sir. Okay, were you drinking, Mr. Fulton? We all were, sir. Mr. Cox was drinking the night before he was. I'm talking about at Blondie's. Was he drinking? I don't recall. Okay, now, you had gotten there early in the morning at 8 o'clock. Yes, sir. And what time did this morning transpire? I have no idea, sir. Would it be evening? It was evening. It was in the evening, 6 or 7 o'clock maybe. Okay, have you ever testified in court before? No, sir. How many times have you met with the FBI on this case? Does that include the meetings with my case agents when I was turning over information, or just... Let's do it in two parts. Let's talk about when you were meeting with your case agent. How many times did you meet with him? I met with my primary and secondary agents probably 30 times. Okay, takes that many times to get your story straight, huh, Bill? Hey, Bill, you make me freaking sick, you freaking narc. You act like you're a freaking Army special agent, FBI narking out good, honest citizens. You're a piece of crap. You're the reason this country is in the hellhole that it's in. It's because of narcs like you. I met with my primary and secondary agents probably 30 times. You're so patriotic, aren't you, Bill? You're so freaking patriotic. Okay, and that was in conjunction with your activity that was going to happen in Fairbanks? No. That was in conjunction with the whole case. In conjunction with the whole case? Yes, sir. Like after Blondie's? After Blondie's, before Blondie's. So I probably met with him 30 times over that 1 year period. Okay, so there was a plan in effect when you were meeting with the FBI about Mr. Cox? I have no idea, sir. Okay, you had no idea, but you had 30 meetings with him and you don't remember? No, I have no idea what the FBI's plan was. Okay, did they discuss with you what they wanted you to do regarding Mr. Cox after the Blondies incident? Not until right before the Millennium Hotel conference, sir. Okay, after the Millennium Hotel, there was nothing else asked of you? I was to continue collecting intel, and then not up until the day that they were arrested. No, sir. Okay, you carried a recording device. Did you carry a recording device because the government asked you to carry a recording device, or did you carry your own recording device? I carried my own recording device, sir. Man, you're just full of sirs, ain't you? Hey, Bill Fulton, man, I've met people like you before, and I can't stand people like you. And I can't stand you. Sir, my God. Okay, at the time, just at the hotel that night? Okay, in June. The hotel in June, Pikes? Yes, sir. Landing in Fairbanks there? Yes, sir. Okay, did you have a recording device at the Millennium Hotel in February the 5th? The FBI did, sir. Okay, now when you were having these 30 or so meetings, did they explain what they were trying to do? No. With Francis Schaefer Cox? No, sir. You were just in total vacuum over that, huh? Aye, sir. Okay, they had 30 meetings with you, and now let me ask you this. After the Blondies incident between the Blondies incident in June of 2010 and the Millennium and the convention in February 2011, how many meetings did you have regarding Francis Schaefer Cox with the FBI? Probably 20 where he was mentioned. Okay, they weren't actually regarding him. There was probably 20 meetings where he was mentioned. Okay, what did they discuss in, say, maybe 10 of those meetings? Was there any common factor that they were talking about? It was always just, what have you heard? Affirmative. Have you been told anything? Affirmative. It was the relationship that I had with the FBI regarding what they were planning on doing was very one-sided. Could you explain that, please? They didn't really brief me out on what their plans were, okay? I was just providing information. So what information were you gathering? When I would get a phone call from Mr. Cox or from his associates, they would talk about whether or not he was going to go to court, things like that. But you said you had about 20 meetings. I mean, that sounds like you're probably talking about 2 or 3 right there. What happened at the other 17 or 18 meetings that you had with the FBI? Well, these meetings were about other intelligence matters where Cox would come up, do you have anything new on this gentleman? Okay, but you were doing your work from Anchorage, or were you doing your work in Fairbanks? I was doing my work in Anchorage most of the time, except that one weekend in Fairbanks. Okay. You never went up there again after Blondie's incident? I did on, the day they were arrested, sir. That was in March the 10th. I believe so, sir. What were you directed at that time? I had set up a weapons deal for him and his boys at the Millennium, at the militia conference. I was going to deliver those weapons. Okay, all right. Were you ever contacted by the FBI up in Fairbanks other than the FBI in Anchorage? I have no idea. I was contacted by the FBI quite a bit. Okay, you had a lot of meetings. You were contacted by Agent Sutherland the morning of the arrest. That was it? You never had any contact with him before then? I don't believe so. But I met a lot of folks at the FBI, sir. Okay, were you licensed dealer of guns, weaponry, that sort of thing? Not at all, sir. Okay, did you ever hold yourself out to be one? No, sir. At the Millennium Convention, you did hold yourself out to be a dealer, right? No, sir. You just sold the firearms? You didn't tell anybody that you had a shop that you could do this through? Can you clarify that, sir? Okay, you were talking, you had a drop zone business, right? Yes, sir. We sold you military surplus. Did you sell military surplus? Did that constitute firearms? No, sir. No firearms at all? No, sir. Did you have access to firearms? Yes, sir. We use them. You, for the other side of our business. Okay, and what were the other sides of your business? Fugitive recovery and security, sir. Okay, what about putting various components together? Did you ever buy components for people? We provided everything but the receiver, sir. Everything but the receiver. Okay, did you have a person was working with you by the name of Jesus or Kyle Brown or something like that? Yes, sir. Okay. Was he also under government, working for the government? No, sir. He worked for me. Okay. Did he come up to Fairbanks with you when the Blondies event occurred? Yes, sir. Does the Interior Alaska Conservative Coalition name ring a bell to you? Yes, sir. Okay. Have you ever worked as a security detail for any politician? Yes, sir. Okay. Well, who would that be? That would be Mr. Joel Miller. Okay. What were you? And Mr. Eddie Burke, were you working in a security detail at the same time that you were acting as a government informant? Yes, sir, I was. Okay, when you were at Pikes, were you directed to record that event? No, sir. Okay, but you recorded it yourself? Yes, sir. I wasn't directed not to. Okay, and when you were at Blondie's, did you record that event? No, sir. Were you directed to record it? No, sir. Okay, so essentially your testimony wasn't, you said that there was going to be, you were trying to arrange a meeting to spark an incident, but the only way that was going to happen was through the warrants. That wouldn't be the catalyst for some sort of confrontation with the government. That would be the catalyst for some sort of confrontation with the government, right? Absolutely, Scrocky. Object to the form of the question mischaracterizes a testimony. Okay, I'll rephrase it. So the only thing that you're aware of as far as the incident that was, as far as your meeting with Mr. Cox at Blondie's, was you were doing this because you had some warrants that he wanted to serve, and then in process of serving that warrant, those warrants that would create some sort of conflict with the government, right? Wrong, I didn't want to do any of that, sir. But you wanted, how was your approach with Mr. Cox regarding the warrants at Blondie's? I said that we would do them for him. Okay, so what I'm asking you was there anything about what you were trying to get Mr. Cox involved in? Were you trying to get him to be a part of the confrontation with the government on his own? Or you be removed from that? Or were you trying to get him to work with you on that? Neither. I was trying to make sure it didn't happen, sir. You were trying to make sure that there wasn't any confrontation with the government? Yes, sir. You were trying to say, okay, we don't want a war, we don't want any problem, and you were doing that for the government? No, sir. Okay, you were doing that for yourself. Aye, sir. Okay, how much did you get reimbursed by the government, as you say? Total over this whole thing? Yes, I believe about $39,000. Ooh. Okay, did you get expenses for food and transportation and hotel rooms taken care of too? On their business? Yes, sir. Did they help you out with any relocation afterwards? Barely. Okay, sir. Okay, when you say barely, how much did they give you? I believe they gave us $20,000 for relocation expenses. Okay, our out-of-pocket was $134,000 total that we haven't been reimbursed for. Okay, in October of 2010, were you investigated for impersonating an FBI agent? Not that I know of, sir. You're not aware of any ongoing investigation? No, I'm not aware of any ongoing investigation, sir. If I told you that Mr. Scrocky has informed us about an investigation involving that, would you say, Scrocky, that mischaracterizes the communication that we provided defense counsel? Well, what was the court? Well, I'm happy to go with whatever you want to say. Was there some investigation regarding? No, what? Impersonating an agent? Scrocky, why don't you ask it if there was a visit by the FBI agents that someone had reported he was doing that? Did there, as opposed to, let me finish the question, as opposed to an investigation. Was there a report that you were impersonating an FBI agent? I believe that there were. That you were? Some allegations made that were found. Okay, to be unfounded, sir. Okay, and they asked you questions about that? Yes, sir, they did. Okay, all right. Now that Pike's Landing recording that you did you destroy it or keep it? I destroyed it, sir. Okay, and was it in response to the FBI asking you questions about it or what? It wasn't in response to the FBI asking me questions about it. I'd already provided it to the FBI. Okay, and you gave a copy of that recording to the FBI? I made it available to them, sir. Okay, and how much do you know about the Alaska Peacemakers militia in Fairbanks? Not much at all, sir. Not much. Okay, did now your dealings with people who were buying stuff from your store, you said there were in some contact with people who were in militia movement down in Anchorage? I had contact with people in militia movement all over the state, sir. Okay, who sponsored the militia convention in the February of 2011? That was David Luntz and myself, sir. Okay, you coordinated the invitation to all the militias in the state to come over there? That was Mr. Luntz, sir. Mr. Luntz, how many militias went there? 8, 9, maybe 10. Okay, I have no idea the exact number. Is there a militia in Anchorage? I have no idea, sir. You have no idea. Okay, now you were saying that you were reimbursed $39,000. What did you say? I'm sorry, I can't remember. I believe it was around there, $39,000. Was that by the FBI? I believe so, sir. Okay, how many hours do you think you worked for the FBI regarding Mr. Cox? Hundreds. Okay, 1,000, 2,000. You say hundreds. I mean, I didn't keep a time card, sir. Okay, I worked whenever I needed to. Okay, well, how would you get reimbursed if you didn't keep a time card? Or some sense of time. Because I was reimbursed for the money that I spent out of pocket. I wasn't reimbursed for my time. You weren't reimbursed for your time at all? I believe they assigned some of it to my time, but because I had to take time away from my business and pay for someone to be there, and yeah, there were other associated costs. I never made a cent. Okay, you were asked for the government to reimburse you for business losses that you incurred because you were helping them out. Right. They asked me at the end of this, as the investigation came to a close, they asked me what I thought it had cost me. So I did put it forward to them what I thought it had cost me. Okay, and you were also reimbursed for putting up the militia meeting convention, potentially, sir. Okay, so you came out in the red, then basically, right? Yes, sir. Okay, and all the time there was no agreement with the government not to prosecute you for something. You did this because they asked you to do it and you had no reason to do it other than that. No, sir, I had no. Okay, did you sell at the drop zone a hornet's nest and a CS canisters? And yes, sir. Any of that sort? Okay, you sold that to the public, yeah? Did you sell launchers there? I think we might have sold a couple over the years, sir. Okay, did you have any contact with J.R. Olson? I met him at the Millennium meeting. And then next time that I saw Mr. Olson was the morning of the arrest, sir. Okay, so from February 5th to March 10th, you hadn't had any contact with Mr. Olson. I may have had some telephone calls or something, but that was the only face-to-face contact I had with him, sir. Okay, when you were doing your intelligence gathering or information, how would you go about doing it with relation to Mr. Cox? What would you do? Was it just phone calls? Was it emails? Was it text messages? What were you doing for gathering information specifically? It was phone calls, emails, text messages, newspaper articles, comments in newspaper articles. When his guys would come down and buy stuff from the store and they would talk, I believe I reported on some of that. Affirmative. Pretty much anything that he was involved in this, what we reported on. Okay, when you were at the convention, were you putting on a certain air as being, kind of taking control of the situation there at the Millennium Hotel when you were meeting with Mr. Vernon and Mr. Olson? Not that I believe. Well, that was where you're a good that was where you're a good actor. Not I don't believe so, sir. You don't think you were okay? You were trying to act, right? You weren't trying to act for real, right? No. I was trying not to get shot, sir. You were trying not to get shot. Well, you checked them out and make sure they weren't packing a gun. I asked. You asked, okay, I mean, you were warning them not to talk about certain things, correct? And talking about certain things, as far as grenade launchers or things of that nature, right? I believe it was grenades, and I didn't want them to get real ones from someone else, sir. Okay, did you sell grenade bodies at Drop Zone? Yes, sir, we did. Okay, and you had a lot of people come in and buy them? Yes, sir. Okay, and when did you first meet Francis Schaefer Cox? At the 2008 Republican Convention, sir. And what were the circumstances under which you met him, if you can recall? I was introduced to Mr. Cox by Joe Miller and Frank Bailey in my hotel room. We were having a meeting on strategy session for the next day. This is a Republican convention? Yes, sir. All right, I'm going to stop here on page 112. All right, let's start with page 112 and see how far we get. Yes, sir. Okay, and Joe Miller, you're talking about the ex-candidate Joe Miller for yes, sir. Okay, when was the next time that you saw Mr. Cox after that meeting at the Republican convention? The next morning, sir. Next morning, okay, and yes, sir. What happened there? We just said hi to each other, I believe. Oh, okay, all right. Well, from that moment on, when was the next time that you met with Mr. Cox? I believe at the end of the convention. Okay, I have no further questions. Thank you. Cross-examination by Mr. Dooley. Mr. Fulton, I'm Tim Dooley for Coleman Barney. While you were at Blondie's, also known as Far North Tactical in Fairbanks, you asked Mr. Zerby whether or not they had a plan, correct? Yes, sir. It was in relation to the conversation we had the night before. Okay, and they said they had no plan? Correct. Yes, sir. And you were at least pretending perhaps to be upset about that? Correct? Aye, sir. Yes, sir. And you told them, I have guys coming up here, I put money into this, correct? Yes, sir. To support them in their plan? Correct. Yes, sir. Okay, no further questions. Miss Hayden, no questions at this time. Scrocky. Hello, Mr. Fulton. Hello, sir. Sorry for the delay. You have exhibit in front of you, marked 907. Yes, sir. Okay, I'll ask you some questions about that in a minute. Okay, so you've had a chance to look at it? Yes, sir. Okay, do you recognize the number that's on the phone number in relation to that exhibit? That's my old work cell phone number, sir. Okay, so you recognize that there? Yes, sir. There's a time frame for that document too, isn't there? Yes, sir. What's the range of the times that are on the page? 8/22, 10/207 of 211. August to February, August of 10, February 11. Yes, sir. Okay, all right. Mr. Fulton, you were asked a lot of questions about this, your participation in Fairbanks at this sale, grand opening ceremony for Blondie's, formerly North Tactical. Yes, sir. Okay, you went up there at the direction of the FBI. Yes, I was going up there anyway, but okay, but yes, sir. Combination of the two. Yes, sir. Do you know Les Zerby? I didn't before that day, sir. Okay, and you mentioned that you were around some folks where they carrying firearms. There were firearms there. Yes, sir. You had a confrontation with a verbal altercation with Mr. Zerby. Yes, sir. All right, and you sort of made a move towards him. Yes, sir. And you said you were concerned that you didn't want to be sort of maybe ferreted out as an FBI informant. Yes, sir. Do you know Mr. Zerby? Do you know Mr. Zerby thought you were an FBI informant? No, but I'm glad I didn't know, sir. You were asked some questions about the amount of time you were spent talking about Mr. Cox with the FBI, and you said in hundreds of hours. Yes, sir. Okay, but that wasn't actual operational time, was it? Oh, absolutely not, sir. Okay, and your involvement with Mr. Cox in terms of face-to-face, how many hours are we talking about total over this whole thing? 5 hours. And if that 5 hours face-to-face, 5 or 6 hours face-to-face, yes, sir. About how many on the phone? Probably another couple hours max. So we're at 10, yes, sir. Anything else? Text? I don't really send text that often, so I know he sent me some, but I might have sent him one or two. Okay, is that reflected in 907, some text you received from Mr. Cox? Yes, sir. And how many texts are on that document, sir? 9, sir. 9 over the course of your involvement with Mr. Cox? Yes, sir. That's it. Yes, sir. All right, you were asked some questions by Mr. Traverso, actually, but you never met him before, correct? Mr. Traverso? No, sir. On Sunday night, though, you met with Rolly Port? I did, sir. For how long? About 4 or 5 hours, sir. Okay, you answered all his questions? Most of them, sir. Yeah, and when he was done, you left? Yes, sir. Okay, your time wasn't cut short? No, sir. How did you come into going to work for the FBI in this case? Were you recruited? How did that happen? I, while working for other federal agency, came across an intelligence matter that was in the FBI's area of expertise, and I was referred to go to them. They, after we all had already established a relationship, they brought up to me that I told them that I knew Mr. Cox a little bit, and through the store, and they told me to see if I could, head up to Fairbanks and see what was going on. So you agreed to do that? Yes, sir. Okay, and when you got up to Fairbanks, you were asked to gain those questions about Blondie and this motel meeting and everything else, and you were given information by Mr. Cox about these warrants, if I understand correctly. Yes, sir. And you operate a fugitive recovery business. Yes, sir. Have for a while. Did you ever hear of a warrant like the one he was proposing you to serve? No, sir. That caused you some concern? Yes, sir, it did. On a personal level? Yes, sir. Can you explain to the jury what type of warrant he was asking you to serve? I had never learned about sovereign citizen ideology now. I'd never exposed to it before that event. Let me stop you there, though, because so obviously you don't know what this is about. No, not at all. So let's stick to what you knew at the time, just for right now. Okay. Here's the guy saying that he's gotten together with his friends and created these warrants, and we all would like us to go arrest some judges and other people for that work with the court. And your response to that was, personally, I was scared. You ever hear of something like that before? No, sir. Was the questions about a plan concerning both those arrest warrants for these judges and what to do with them afterwards as part of the equation? Yes, sir. So we've got the two things going on here. One is arrest the judges, and then what to do with them afterwards. Yes, sir. And were you advocating, you can call it what you wish, pushing to find out information about what's going to happen to them after they do that? Yes, sir. Were you given any details about what was going to happen after they did that? It was told that they would be tried and fined or hung, sir. Tried, bound, and hanged. Tried and either fined. Okay. Monetary fined or hung. If I can have you look at Exhibit 907, and those are, as you indicated, text messages to your phone. Yes, sir. And is there one particular reference from Schaefer Cox that you can see on that exhibit? Yes, sir. That's the first one. Scrocky. Okay, we offer 907. No objection, no objection, no objection. 907 may be admitted. Scrocky. That's probably the first number I've gotten right the whole trial, Mr. Fulton. If we could have the lights, please. Lights back up. Mr. Fulton, that's the first text that you have there. Yes, sir. There's a date for that text. Yes, sir. What's the date? 8/22 of 2010. Okay, and what does it say to you? Bill, just got your message. We're cool. Call me Monday. Schaefer Cox. So this is August of 2010. Yes, sir. About approximately how much time had transpired since the meeting in Fairbanks? Month and a half. Okay, so he tells you we're all cool. Yes, sir. During the course of your work with the FBI on Mr. Cox's investigation, after that point, did you have any serious disagreements or any other kind of activity in the negative sense with Mr. Cox? No, sir. And how was his demeanor, tenor, tone in dealing with you verbally or in person when you guys met? He was always very cordial. Did he ask you to do things for him? Yes, sir. How about coordinate in terms of militia activities in a general sense? Yes, sir. And in fact, do you recall a phone conversation you received in the hotel at the Millennium Hotel during the militia convention from Mr. Cox? Was a while ago, but yes, sir. Do you recall receiving that call? Yes, sir. Do you recall the nature of the phone call? Not exactly, sir. I remember he wanted me to set up a Skype so he could talk to people or something the next day. And did he discuss with you the fact that his men being down there and how you should treat them? Yes, sir. Do you recall that now? Yes, sir, I do. Can you have any additional information? Can you explain to the jury about that? That I was to treat them as I would treat him, and they were down there with his full authority and representation to get grenade bodies. They weren't just looking for grenade bodies, but yes, sir. What else were they looking for? They were looking for silencers, for XD pistols, grenades, grenade bodies, grenade fuses. C4 was mentioned. There was some talk of automatic weapons. That's all I can remember off the top of my head, sir. Do you remember meeting Lonnie Vernon during that convention? Yes, sir. Do you remember when he first asked you about when he first met you? And we walked into my store and said, I need some grenades, sir. How much time transpired from the time he crossed the threshold before he asked that question? About 5 seconds. You guys talked a lot about that? Yes, sir, we did. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Fulton. Traverso, between the June of 2010 when you went up to Blondie's and February 5th, did you have, after Blondie's to February 5th, did you have any in-person contact with Mr. Cox? Not that I recall, sir. Okay, do you have a copy of these warrants? Which warrants, sir? The warrants that you said Mr. Cox had created to serve on these people that you said they were judges. No, sir. Did you ever have the copies of these warrants? No, sir. And you recorded that meeting and then destroyed that recording? Yes, sir. Okay, I have no further questions. Mr. Dooley, Mr. Fulton, have you ever seen Mr. Coleman Barney before? No, sir. Ever talked to him on the, no, sir, phone or anything? Thank you. Yes, sir. Miss Hayden, no questions. The court, all right. Thank you, Mr. Fulton. You may be excused. It is perhaps time to take a break. All right. We'll take a break for 20 minutes. All rise. This matter is in recess. All rise. This dishonorable court, the dishonorable court of the District of Court is again in session. Please be seated. Where's our witness? Are we through with Mr. Fulton? Yes, sir. The court, okay. Bring the jury in. Okay, you may call your next witness, Mr. Traverso. If you'll just come up and stand in the witness box, and if you'll face the courtroom and jury and raise your right hand, and you'll be sworn. Maria Rensel. Defendant Cox's witness sworn. Thank you. Please be seated. Mr. Traverso. Maria, could you state your name and spell your last name for the record? Rensel. R-E-N-S-E-L. Okay, and your first name, please. Oh, Maria. Okay, M-A-R-I-A. Okay, where do you live, Maria? In Fairbanks. Okay, and do you know Francis Schaefer Cox? Yes. Okay, how do you know him? We're friends. I met him first during the campaign for liberty in 2008. Campaign for Liberty, was that in Fairbanks statewide or what? In Fairbanks. Okay, now are you part of an organization called the Interior Alaska Conservative Coalition? Yes, sir. Okay, can you tell us about that? Yes, sir. It's an organization to promote civic action. Okay, and was Mr. Cox involved with that? Originally, he was one of our board members, yes. Okay, and then later, was his association with your organization different? He appointed board members to our coalition board, okay? The coalition board was made up of a variety of organizations that had overlapping goals. Okay, and what were some of the civil endeavors that you described with the Interior Alaska Conservative Coalition involved itself with? We were involved in helping to organize lots of different efforts, of our coalition members. One of the other members, besides Schaefer's organization, was the Interior Right to Life. During that, their organization used the coalition to help collect signatures on a petition for parental notification law. Okay, did you ever get involved with the Second Amendment Task Force? Yes. Okay, and how did you get involved with that? Well, I noticed that Schaefer was really successful in drawing a crowd, affirmative, and so I wanted to make sure that we maintained a database of the people that were interested in the Second Amendment, as well as any other aspects of the Constitution that we may be able to affect changes with on a civic level. Okay, what kind of database are you speaking of? It's an email list on Yahoo. Okay, at some point did you engage with was Schaefer involved in the Second Amendment Task Force? Yes. Okay, did you engage yourself with getting a petition of signatures regarding the goals of the Second Amendment Task Force? Yes, I helped. Okay, Schaefer in any way that I could whenever he had a meeting. Okay, Mr. Traverso, if I might approach the witness, Your Honor, this is Exhibit 5. Don't get too far from your microphone. Mr. Traverso, sorry, this is Exhibit 5, Your Honor. I've already presented it to counsel. I got this today, so there's not enough copies made, but these are petitions of, and I'd present it to the witness. Lamoureux, can the record reflect that this is Cox Exhibit 5 and not Government Exhibit 5? FSC 5. It's already been marked by Mr. Traverso. Could you tell us what that is? That is a stack of declarations, I think they were called. It's a petition that we were going to include. Schaefer, the Second Amendment Task Force, circulated a petition for people in Fairbanks to sign, and they basically were signing onto the goals of the Second Amendment Task Force. I think 1,800 people signed it, and their names were to be printed in the Fairbanks Daily News Miner. Okay, and what was that declaration? Could you read it to us, please? Sure. Let it be known that we, the people of Alaska, stand in recognition of the true principle that whenever a government abandons the purpose for which we have created it, and even becomes hostile towards that which it was once a defender of, it is no longer a fit steward of the political power that is inherent in the people and lent to this government with strict conditions. These conditions are clearly defined in the U.S. Constitution and understood by the common man. Furthermore, to the extent that our government violates these conditions, they nullify their own authority, at which point it is our right and duty, not as subjects but as sovereign citizens, as sovereign Americans, to entrust this power to new stewards who will not depart from the laws we have given them. That this being the case, let it be known that should our government seek to further tax, restrict, or register firearms or otherwise impose on the right that shall not be infringed, thus impairing our ability to exercise the God-given right to self-defense which precedes all human legislation and is superior to it, that the duty of us good and faithful people will not be to obey them, but to alter or abolish them, and institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its power in such form as to us shall seem most likely to affect our safety and happiness. Question. Okay, thank you. When you say alter the government, was that through violent means? Miss Lamoureux, objection! Traverso, I'm sorry, what, do you object? Objection! Miss Lamoureux. Traverso, okay, go ahead. Lamoureux, Foundation, are you asking a question about what the declaration says? She just read it. Traverso, okay, I'm asking a question about the declaration. Well, rephrase your question then, by Mr. Traverso. The last line there talks about if the government is not a good steward, basically, we need to alter the government. Is that through violent means or non-violent means? The court. The objection's coming, the objection's sustained. You can ask her what she thinks it means. Traverso, okay. There wasn't even an objection. The court just stopped her from answering. The court, but she can't speak for the rest of the people that may have signed it. Traverso. Okay, what did you understand the last sentence to mean? I would say each person who signed this most likely made an interpretation themselves. No, but I'm asking what, and mine, yeah, just for your interpretation. Sure, mine would be, I feel the most effective would be through civic action. Okay, now sometime in June of 2010, was there a fundraiser in the Interior Alaska Conservative Coalition? Yes. Where was that? It was held at Far North Tactical. Okay, and that's also known as Blondie's, right? Yes. Okay, what was sponsoring this fundraiser? Aaron Bennett, okay. And who is Aaron Bennett? He owns Far North Tactical. Okay, affirmative. What time did you arrive there? Do you remember? 7 a.m. 7 a.m., okay. And how were you going to raise money at this fundraiser? What were you going to be selling? Well, it was a variety of things, but mostly Far North Tactical and a company out of Anchorage. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of that drop zone, I believe it was. Affirmative. We're going to sell tactical gear, and then a percentage of that was going to IACC as a fundraiser. We also sold hot dogs and accepted donations, and we did a variety of things to raise money ourselves. Okay, did you know most of the people that were there? A lot of people in attendance there. Affirmative. There were quite a few. Okay, did you know a man named Bill Fulton? Yes. Affirmative. Okay, was he there? Yes, he was. Okay, was there anything that drew your attention about Mr. Fulton? The first thing that drew my attention was that he had a helper he called Jesus. And, affirmative, he was walking around. He was extremely offensive to everyone. He was really loud and obnoxious, and for some reason, he was stomping around and angry. Who was stomping around, Jesus or Bill Fulton? Bill Fulton. Okay, did Schaefer's name ever come up? It came up throughout the day many, many times. Okay, in what way? Bill Fulton and several of the Bennett brothers and their friends and had mentioned Schaefer. Miss Lamoureux, objection, hearsay. Well, I don't know if this calls for hearsay or not. What's the question? I was asking about did Schaefer's name come up, and she was trying to describe that. Well, that's a little too broad question, I'm afraid. It's incredible. The court is so biased. Mr. Traverso, okay, when were you there? Did anything cause you alarm with regard to Mr. Fulton? Yeah, he was talking about Schaefer. Objection. He was talking about Schaefer. Cox says, wait a minute. Traverso, I'll rephrase the question. The court, okay, I'm not sure what's offered for the truth and what's Traverso, okay. The court offered for the fact that it was Traverso, it's not be. Court said, so it's a little hard to. Traverso, it's not hearsay, Your Honor, because Mr. Fulton is a government agent. He's a party opponent. That's been established that he's an informant with his testimony just prior to this. The court, well, I have to look that one up. There's no hearsay exception. That's non-hearsay. Go ahead with the next question. Traverso, when you were there with Mr. Fulton, was there something about Mr. Fulton that drew your attention other than the fact that he was being a loudmouth? I believe he was trying to make me believe that Schaefer wanted to do something. Lamoureux, objection, that Schaefer did not want to. Okay, no objection, overruled. Go ahead, you can answer, which she did. Okay, there was some sort of, what's the next question? Was there any discussion regarding any plan or something like that? Schaefer, apparently from what he was saying. Lamoureux, objection, hearsay. Well, this probably calls for hearsay. Traverso, was there, with regard to Mr. Fulton, if you could describe, please, what it was that drew your concern about about Schaefer? Was there any discussions regarding violence or nonviolence or what? Yes, there was a plan to have a meeting. Mr. Fulton planned to have a meeting after that. Objection from Ms. Lamoureux. The witness, fundraiser was over. The court, well, just a minute, and now we are getting to hearsay. And Traverso, okay. The court, he is not a spokesman for the government. Traverso, okay. Mr. Traverso, did Mr. Fulton act in a certain way that drew your attention? Let me ask you this way. Was there some point that, did you see Francis Schaefer Cox ever come to that meeting, come to the Far North Tactical Shop? He wasn't at the fundraiser. People were saying things about him and he wasn't. Miss Lamoureux, objection. The witness, there to defend himself. Mr. Traverso, people were saying things about Schaefer Cox? Yes. Miss Lamoureux, objection. Traverso, okay. The witness with the court, well, wait a minute. That's present tense impression. The subject that came up, Traverso, the court is not hearsay, it's offered for truth. Traverso, present tense impression, okay. So you want to elaborate or finish your answer? I'm sorry. Sure, they were speaking on his behalf about something that he supposedly wanted to do. Lamoureux, objection. The witness, I felt it was outside of his nature and passing it off for something that Schaefer wanted to be. Objection as part of, and I'd never believed it. Traverso, okay, the government requests the answer be stricken. No, the objection's overruled. Okay. What was it that Schaefer apparently wanted to happen? They never said. Okay. They were being very vague about the entire issue. Okay. And they had to get him to Far North Tactical at a meeting that night and stop him, but they didn't openly say it was that he wanted to do. Okay. And it was a kind of boogeyman. There was a boogeyman there, and I didn't understand why anyone would want to. I felt, Your Honor, this is going beyond. That's from Ms. Lamoureux. Traverso, okay. Lamoureux, scope and question. The court, that's beyond the question. What's the question, counsel? Mr. Traverso, the next question is, were you there also with your husband, Bill Rensel? Yes, sorry, I apologize. And did you both go there together? I went earlier. Okay, and then did he? Affirmative. Okay, later on, did you understand whether or not there was going to be some sort of meeting among people there attending the fundraiser? Yes. Okay, and were you going to be in attendance in that meeting? No. Okay, did you see Les Zerby there at Blondie's? He wasn't at the fundraiser, but he arrived about 6 p.m. Okay, at some point, did you see Schaefer arrive? I didn't see Schaefer arrive. Okay, did you leave the fundraiser at some point and your husband stay? Yes. Okay, thank you. I have no further questions. Mr. Dooley, no questions. Mr. Traverso, oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor, I apologize. Court, yeah, go ahead. That's all right. Go ahead. I have one more question. Mr. Traverso, in November of 2010, Thanksgiving, you were invited over to Mr. Cox's house for Thanksgiving. Yes. Do you remember the people who were there? There were 2 men from Big Lake who I didn't know. Ken Thessing was there. Marty Schaefer and Marty. Marty's mother was there. Okay, Marty, did you hear Schaefer spouting off that he was going to kill TSA people if they... Objection, hearsay. Traverso, impeachment, Your Honor. The court, well, the question was, Traverso, the court, going to be leading in form, and I think did not accurately state the testimony. Traverso, okay, so try again. Okay. Traverso, what did you hear? What did you hear any? Did you hear Schaefer's mother-in-law speaking at this Thanksgiving dinner? And not, excuse me, did you hear Mr. Cox speaking at this Thanksgiving dinner saying things to his mother-in-law about killing TSA employees? No. Miss Lamoureux, objection! Traverso, that was what the witness offered. It's hearsay. Pardon? It's hearsay, Your Honor. It's impeachment. The answer may stand. Okay. Did your husband also attend the Thanksgiving dinner? Yes. Okay, thank you. No further questions? No questions, no questions. Miss Lamoureux. Cross-examination by Miss Lamoureux. Oh my goodness. Good afternoon. We've never met before, have we? No. You've never talked to anyone from the government about this case, have you? No. How many times have you met with the defense team about this case? 3. When was the last time you were in contact with Schaefer Cox? Before his arrest? How much before? 6 months maybe? So about when would that have been? It was probably at the Thanksgiving dinner. Was that probably the last time? I don't recall when I last saw him. Any reason you weren't in contact with him after that? No, just busy. You said that he had an organization that was part of the coalition, is that right? Right. Which organization was that? The Second Amendment Task Force? Were you familiar with his Alaska Peacemakers militia? Yes, I'm familiar with it. You said that your organization has an email list on Yahoo, is that right? Yes. And is that something that's available to the public? No, ma'am. Like if I wanted to sign up for that email list, could I do that? Yes, you could. Did you still have the exhibit there in front of you there? The petitions? Yes. What's the date range when those signatures were collected? Okay, I'm going to stop here on page 142. 142.
This is Global Telling. Your call.
All right, let's pick up with page 142. And is that something that is available to the public? No, ma'am. Like if I wanted to sign up for the email list, could I do that? Yes, you could. Do you still have the exhibit there in front of you, the petitions? Yes. What's the date range when those signatures were collected? It was throughout 2009. I don't recall the date that the first meeting of the Second Amendment Task Force was there were available, but it happened at Friends Church sometime. I believe it was in 2009. If you wouldn't mind looking through the stack of documents there, I think in there's one, at least a staple. There's a 2-page document. If you wouldn't mind looking for that, and do you know, you signed the petition, right? Petition, is that right? I did sign it. And your husband too, yes. And Schaefer Cox, I don't know if Schaefer did. I would assume he did. Did Les Zerby sign it? Yes. What about Lonnie Vernon? Most likely. And Coleman Barney? Yes. And you have that 2 pages there that are stapled together? Yes, I do. And on the second page are the number of items listed. And unfortunately, that's the only copy, so I don't have it in front of me. But there's some numbers listed. Do you see that there? Yes. And what are those items? Would you like me to read them, or do you know what they are? Have you seen them before? Are they goals? They're goals of the Second Amendment Task Force, right? They're direction by the Second Amendment Task Force. Says summary of the first meeting, okay, of the Second Amendment Task Force. Have you seen those numbers there before? The items that are listed there? Not that I recall, no. What's the one that says something about convicting for a firearms offense? Do our moral duty as a juror and not convict a firearms offense. And then there are names below that. Affirmative. What are those names? Karen Vernon, Lonnie Vernon, Scott Burnett, Francine Burnett, Misty Lawrence, Gabriel Christman, Dwayne Taylor. Do you know who the members of the Alaska Peacemakers militia were? No, ma'am, I don't. Was your husband a member? No, ma'am, he was not. He never went to any of the trainings. He went to one training. Then what happened? I don't know. You worked that item you just read there and about not convicting on a firearms offense. Is that something that you would agree with? Can I tell you the whole truth? This is the summary of the first meeting, and I believe they were trying to get at something called jury nullification. I'm asking if that line right up there, not convicting on firearms offenses, is that something you agree with? No. You helped Schaefer Cox with some of the sovereign citizen paperwork? I witnessed one line, his sovereign citizen paperwork. We had admitted as Government Exhibit 441 If we could have the lights, Madam Clerk, and pull up page 193, please. You also have a monitor right by you, so whichever one's easier for you to read, feel free to look. Do you recognize this document? No, but I'm assuming by your introduction it was at the Sovereign Citizen paperwork. It was the Sovereign Citizen paperwork. So the title is for your protection. Do you see that where it says that down below, some sort of halfway down the page, before the paragraph, the number paragraph, right about there, it says, take a moment to read this before you proceed any further. I do not wish to speak to you under any circumstances excluding federal judicial review. Do you see that? I do. Okay, Miss Hayden, Your Honor, I'm going to object. I think this is going beyond the scope of direct. I don't know what the next question is. Miss Lamoureux, the relationship with Mr. Cox is relevant to her testimony. The court, what's the next question? Lamoureux, can we go to page 195, please? This is a couple of pages into this. It says billing cost assessed with levies and liens upon violation shall be. Do you see the part of that document? This one's really not clear here. Okay, we can enlarge that top half, and the page is it's a little bit easier to read then. Do you see that? Can you read that now? You don't need to read it out loud. Are you able to read it? Yes. Okay, now if we go to page 199, let's expand the top half of the page, please. Do you recognize the signature on that page? Deanna Skidmore. How about up there where it says Francis August Schaefer Cox? I see it. I guess that's how Schaefer signs his name. Okay, well, if we scroll down on the page, is that your name there? Maureen Meeks? No. Below that? Yes. That's your signature? Yes, it is. Okay. Were you ever invited to be on an exit team for Schaefer Cox? No, I was not. Coleman Barney never reached out to you? No. Can we look at Exhibit 196, page 18, please? And then go to page 19. There's a name that's Maureen Rinsel there with a check mark next to it and a star. Is that your phone number? Yes, that is, yes. Did Coleman Barney ever reach out to you? Do you mean did Coleman Barney ever call me? Yes, he did. But not about an exit team. I don't know what an exit team is. What did he call you about? He called me about various times about things going on with IACC. Like what? Mostly where these Second Amendment Task Force meetings might be taking place, such as Door Folk Church or Friends Church. Just logistic kind of. Because he was helping coordinate them. At times he was fine. Anyone in IACC would call me to find out when the meeting was and where it was taking place. So he was calling you to find out when the Second Amendment Task Force meeting was going to occur? That was an example, sure. He wasn't reaching out to Schaefer Cox about that? No, not necessarily, no. What else did he call you about? I don't recall anything else. Okay, he didn't reach out to you about the common law trial at Denny's? Oh, yes, okay. Affirmative. Tell the jury about that, please. Coleman Barney asked me to come and listen to common law trial that was taking place at Denny's, and I did go. Okay, if we could have the Exhibit 302, page 5. Do you see your name on there? I must have the wrong page. If we could go to the page before, please. Is that your name there right below Bill Rinsel? Then your name? Yes. Okay, also says Skype. Did you Skype? Skype into that meeting? No, in general. Do you Skype? Is that a way that you communicate with people? The only person I've ever Skyped with is my daughter at college. Okay, so what happened at that common law trial? We reviewed some of the cases that Schaefer was involved in, or a case that he was involved in. There were witnesses from around that state. There was someone at the telephone and by phone from another state. I think it was the common law judge. And we heard all the evidence and we acted as if we were a jury and decided whether if we were the jury, if we would convict or not. Affirmative. Acquit. And you acquitted him, right? I did. Affirmative. And you acquitted him of a charge that he'd already pled guilty into state court? I have no idea. He didn't tell you that part? I don't recall that. You didn't? Did you know that he had already pled guilty to the crime? At this moment, I don't even recall what the crime was. But you acquitted him of it. I remember that we listened to the evidence and I acquitted him that. I thought he was not guilty based on the evidence that night. Did you go to the training beforehand about that trial? No, I didn't. Did anyone tell you what your verdict was supposed to be before that trial? Absolutely not. Did somebody swear in the witnesses at that time? I don't recall if they were sworn in. I believe that most likely were, but I don't recall. Was it Schaefer Cox who swore them in? It may have been, but so I don't recall. The defense swore in the witness at his trial. I'm sorry, I don't recall. Do you remember that the subject of the trial was also related to domestic violence? What I don't know is that there was a few things that happened this summer. There was a trip down to Anchorage. There was the Department of Child Services was trying to take Seth from Schaefer and Marty, as well as there was a Liberty Bell calling Schaefer had a pocket knife in his pocket, and it seems that those three things kept converging. Was this coming from Schaefer Cox? How did you know this information? A variety of sources. Sometimes it was from Schaefer, yes. What were the other sources? People that had talked to Schaefer, and just in general, newspapers, reporters very often called me to find out what was going on, and I would ask them questions as well. Did you hear any testimony from the law enforcement who might have responded to the situation? No, but I do have a report from law enforcement. It was the state trooper that signed Barney's statement. So you reviewed that. I did review it. You did before your verdict, yes. Before your deliberations, did you have deliberations? No. Did Marty testify? I don't believe so. She was on the phone, but I don't believe she did testify. And regarding this misdemeanor weapons charge, what did you say the weapon was? A pocket knife. Is that what Schaefer Cox told you? Someone told it to me, yeah. Did the law enforcement witness who responded to that scene, did he testify? Did he testify? I think he may have been invited to be at court, but he didn't show up. He didn't choose to show up. So at the common law court, you're saying the court at Denny's? Yes. And that was a Fairbanks Police Department officer, right? Yeah, most likely, affirmative. So whose side of the story did you hear regarding that misdemeanor weapons charge? Again, I heard from newspaper reporters, I heard from various people around town, and I heard from Schaefer. So the evidence at trial at Denny's was based on newspapers and testimony. Testimony by who? People in the community? People who were there or not there? People who were there. The woman whose home it was that the incident took place at, it seemed that her brother was there as well, and he had been in the home where the incident took place. There were Liberty Bell people that were on the call, that were also people that I knew that were reputable, that watched the entire scene unfold. So yes, they were present. Did you hear the police department recording where Schaefer Cox admitted to have a gun in his pocket? No, I did not. Did you think this was a real court? I think it's a philosophical kind of discussion and investigation, whether or not our court system has gotten away from its original intent, and to look at common law and how our court system may have again, how it's changed since our founders' intent and since the originations. I know that in Fairbanks, for example, when we go in for jury duty, the very first question that's asked of us is if we're a jury rights activist. We're kicked out of the courtroom immediately. So jury nullification is absolutely not allowed. And philosophically, I would like to know really the difference between what we're this court system that we have, the justice system we have, our legal system, and how that varies from our founders' original intent. Did you ever go to any Schaefer Cox's real state court hearings? No. After that common law trial at Denny's, there were charges that were levied against the law enforcement, weren't there? I don't recall any charges levied against anyone. That wasn't part of your verdict? I do not recall that. Where Schaefer Cox was seeking money damages and judgment against all the law enforcement who had handled his previous criminal cases, even ones that he had pled guilty to. I do not recall that. I'm sorry. What was a part of the founding father? Was that a part of founding fathers' original intent? I'm currently studying the founding fathers' original intent, as well as common law, scientific law, as opposed to political law. And it's an ongoing study. I'm not sure what their intent was. So did Schaefer Cox testify at the common law trial? At his trial, affirmative. Yes, I believe so. And did he say that he had previously admitted to carrying that gun in his pocket? I'm sorry, I don't recall that. I don't believe so. If you have heard that, would you still have acquitted him? Traverso, objection, Your Honor. It calls for speculation. Sustained. Can we pull up Exhibit 556, please? And it's show on the big screen, please. Number 6, therefore, Alaska Peacemakers on-call list is Lieutenant Bill Rensel. Is that your husband? Yes, it is. I thought you said he only went to one training. He just told me today, and I believe him. You can ask him when you see him that he did not take the oath. Back in, if we could have the lights, Madam Clerk, going back to June 2010, when you were in at Far North Tactical fundraiser for IACC, you were there, right? Yes. Did you hear Schaefer Cox talking that day? He was not there. So your husband heard him talking. Is that what you said? Your husband did? Heard Schaefer talking? Affirmative. No, Schaefer wasn't at the fundraiser. Okay, I'm going to stop on page 156 and I'll pick up later. Okay, let's pick up at page 156. Not okay, not while you were there, right. Okay, and In fact, the fundraiser ended at about 5 o'clock, and that's the end of the IACC fundraiser. And then anything else that happened that evening was a meeting that was completely separate from the IACC. The next day, did you talk with people about what happened at Far North Tactical? No. You didn't tell anyone that Schaefer Cox had a plan to get a warrant and pick up some judges and try to hang them? I don't recall. I don't recall that. You don't recall telling anybody that? No. So if someone were to come in here and testify, you just don't recall that? No, I don't recall that. I have no other questions. Redirect examination by Mr. Traverso. Do you know somebody by the name of Lorna Marish? No, not familiar. Okay, all right. I have no further questions. Thank you. Mr. Dooley, no questions. Miss Hayden, no questions. All right. Thank you, Miss Rensel. You may be excused. Thank you for move for admission of FSC 5. Your Honor, no objection. FSC 5 admitted. If you'll come to the witness box, please, and if you'll just enter the witness box there and remain standing and face the courtroom and the jury, raise your hand right and be sworn, please. William Rensel, thank you. Please be seated. Direct examination. Mr. Traverso, good afternoon, Mr. Rensel. Could you spell your first and last name and state your name for the record? Bill Rensel, William Rensel, R-E-N-S-E-L. Okay. Do you know Francis Schaefer Cox? Yes, I do. How do you know him? He's a friend of mine. Okay, were you ever involved in any organization, say Second Amendment Task Force, or any other community organization with Schaefer? Yes. Okay, could you tell us what that was? Well, we started in the Interior Alaska Conservative Coalition with Schaefer. He was there. Okay, at the first meeting, I first met him, I believe, at the Ron Paul for the President rally or meeting a couple of years before that. Okay, was that in Anchorage? It was in Fairbanks. In Fairbanks, okay? I was involved in the Second Amendment Task Force and was also involved when his militia, okay, the Alaska Peacemakers. Okay, how involved were you with the Alaska Peacemakers militia? I was in a leadership advisory role, and I went to one training session. Okay, at some point did you have a reason for not being a member of the militia? Well, my wife didn't like it, but I didn't like the oath, and I thought at the time that Schaefer should have been elected instead of... I thought if he ran, he would have been elected hands down. Okay, and head of the affirmative militia, I see, Okay, what do you understand as the goal? What do you understand as the goals of the Alaska Peacemakers militia? Defend all, aggress none. And at the time when my wife and I, and probably Schaefer, started getting politically active, it was about 2008. The stock market was crashing, and there was bank bailouts, and George Bush was handing out money left and right. And it appears like our country was in trouble, and it appeared like that it was going to be a good thing to have neighbors, to be able to help neighbors. Okay, did the militia have goals in hanging judges or killing law enforcement? Not that I ever heard. Okay, all right, I don't believe it. Okay, when in the summer of 2010, June of 2010, specifically at Far North Tactical, which is also known as Blondie's, did you happen to be there on the day of a fundraiser? Yes, okay. We had a fundraiser for the Interior Alaska Conservative Coalition. We were going to get cut of the growth, the sales that we made there that day. Several different vendors had come up, and they were also going to, kick in. Okay, do you know who sponsored this event? Yeah, it would have been Aaron Bennett. Okay, affirmative. And he's the owner of the place. He's a co-owner, I believe, of Far North Tactical. Do you know who Bill Fulton is? William Fulton is. Unfortunately, I like this Bill Rensel guy already. Unfortunately, okay, at some point before I get there, do you know who Les Zerby is? Yes. Did you see Les Zerby there that day? Yes, after the sale, there was a meeting, and he was inside Far North Tactical store. Okay, and did something well. Was it, I guess there were two parts for this whole fundraiser. Was there a fundraiser? Yes. And then a meeting later or something? Right. Okay, a fundraiser all day? Okay, and then a meeting later that night. Aaron specifically invited me as a friend of Schaefer's. Okay, was Schaefer at this meeting? He came late, yes. He was? What was the purpose of the meeting? All day, what I heard from various people was that Schaefer was out of control and needed to be reined in and was going to cause all sorts of problems. When I actually got there, it didn't appear that that was the case at all. It appeared that the drop zone Bill Fulton he had been distorting truth and was just stirring up trouble, basically. Yeah, exactly. Praise God for Bill Rensel. Okay. Without getting into this communications, exactly what he said. What was the gist of it? And he was anti-Schaefer or pro-Schaefer, very anti-Schaefer, anti-Les Zerbe, calling them all sorts of names. Affirmative. Was spouting on about something about common law warrants of arrest of judges. It appeared at the time that Schaefer didn't seem to know what was going on, what he was talking about. What? Specifically, at Schaefer had kind of a deer in the headlights look when he was attacked, the way he was attacked by Bill Fulton. Okay, Schaefer showed up and this was going on with him there? Yes, and Zerbe there? Affirmative. Did you see some altercation did you see something happen between Mr. Zerbe and Mr. Fulton? It appeared, Mr. Fulton verbally attacked Mr. Zerbe quite a bit. Called him all sorts of names and threatened him all sorts of different ways, and it did appear like he made a lunge for him once. Well, did he do this because Zerbe was attacking him or something? Or doing something to him? No, sir. Did you observe observe what happened? Was there some provocation of some sort? The provocation seemed to be that Les Zerbe said he was second in command, but he wouldn't give an okay to go ahead and to do this thing that Drop Zone Bill wanted to do. And see, that's where all the just nastiness came from. Okay, well, when Schaefer did arrive and he was there and this was going on with him present, was Schaefer drinking? No, I never. Affirmative. No, I never seen Schaefer drink. Okay, did you ever have an opportunity to talk to the FBI about Blondie or anything involving Interior Alaska Conservative Coalition? They called about my dealings with Schaefer and okay, I spoke with him. Okay, all right. When this event occurred with Mr. Zerbe, what exactly happened? Can you describe for us the event between Mr. Fulton and Mr. Zerbe? Well, the animosity began long before... Mr. Scrocky, Your Honor, I'm going to object. I think we've gone over this already. The court overruled. Hey, Scrocky, you're a jackass. Mr. Traverso, go ahead. The animosity began long before Schaefer was there, where Mr. Fulton berated and heckled and badgered and foul-mouthed Mr. Zerbe, and then it got much more vocal and loud after Schaefer got there. Okay, did you hear any promotion of some sort of a confrontation with the government, and men were going to be coming up here, assets coming up here? And, yeah, Mr. Fulton said that. Scrocky, objection, hearsay. The witness, well, what? The court, just a minute, I don't think that's offered for the truth of what he said. Traverso, okay, witness, I'm sorry, no, you can. The court, go ahead. Bill Fulton several times throughout the day said words to the effect that he had assets coming from all over the world, and that he had material being shipped in, and that if this didn't come off, he was going to be out of all sorts of money, and that he said that numerous times during the day. I had always assumed that it meant, I don't know, paramilitary types or mercenaries or something. Hey, Bill Fulton, you're nothing but a jackass liar. I hate you, Bill Fulton. You freaking framed Schaefer Cox. You separated him from his family. And you said you love sodomites. That's all I got, Anyway. Okay, where are we going? Oh, mercenaries or something. Okay. Guards, Okay, did anybody get hurt? No, unless lots of people got their feelings hurt, a lot of verbal abuse, but there were no blows struck that I saw. Did anybody intervene on behalf of Mr. Zerbe? If I remember right, several people grabbed Fulton from the sides and behind to keep him from jumping at Les. Okay, all right, thank you. No further questions. Mr. Dooley, no questions. Miss Hayden, no questions. Cross-examination by Scrocky. The reptile man gets up. Hello, Mr. Rensel. Hello. Sir, what do you do for a living? I'm an electrician. He's a hard-working man, you can tell. Do you know Coleman Barney? Yes. From the electrician business? No, not really. The militia? And politically, yes. Politically? Affirmative. In what capacity, sir? In the Interior Alaska Conservative Coalition, we had a lot of people from town. And would he come into town for the meetings? Affirmative, I believe so. Either that or the Second Amendment Task Force. I've seen him around. You know him through that association? I think so, yes. And how far back, if you could tell us? Probably 2008. I'm not really positive, but I give or take, yeah. Okay, all right. You were asked a lot of questions about this meeting at Blondie's. Affirmative. Did you turn your cell phone before you went into this meeting? Yeah, Mr. Fulton. Oh, did you turn in your cell phone before you went into this meeting? Yeah, Mr. Fulton insisted on it. Affirmative. Everybody else turned their phones in too, right? Well, I would guess so. A lot of people put phones in a bag. I don't know if they all turned them in. But I handed mine over. Okay, do you know what a de jure grand jury is? I believe so, yes. You do, why don't you? Affirmative. Tell the jury, this trial jury, what a de jure grand jury is, as you understand it. Well, it is my understanding that citizens have a right to form juries, and at least historically they did, and banish criminals or censor them and censor them. And I don't know that we ever lost that right when we became a nation, affirmative. And if so, then that right still exists, and if not, then a de jure grand jury is nothing more than a moot court, and there's no harm, no foul. No harm, no foul? For a moot court, you yourself, I'm sure, have been in a moot court. A few. This isn't a moot court. No, it's not. Let me ask you this, Mr. Rensel. You sat on Mr. Cox's common law trial at Denny's? Yes, I did. You voted to acquit him? Yes, I did. Do you understand what the operative effect of that verdict was when you rendered that not guilty verdict? That it appeared on the basis of the evidence that he was not guilty. Affirmative. And let's see, who gave the testimony? Mr. Cox? Yes. Right. Mystique Lockery gave some testimony? I don't remember all their names. A female gave some testimony? Affirmative. Oh yeah, affirmative. And the basis of the trial was to decide about Mr. Cox's guilt or innocence with respect to 2 state of Alaska charges, right? I believe so. One for domestic violence matter against the spouse. I don't remember that. Other one for carrying, I remember, a concealed weapon. The one where he responded to the lady on the 911 call, a Liberty Bell call. Affirmative. He showed up during a police investigation. He was asked to show up, yes. Affirmative. And then he didn't tell the police officer he was carrying a gun. It sounded like he didn't have the opportunity to tell the police officer he was carrying a gun. It sounded like that's Mr. Cox says though, right? That's what Mr. Cox says, right? Was the officer there present for his trial? No, he wasn't. Was Marty Cox physically present for this trial so the jury could hear her version of events? I don't remember. I believe she spoke, but I don't remember if she was there or not. So she didn't have a chance to tell her side of the story? She wasn't there. What story would she be telling? Maybe her own. She wasn't there No, I'm talking about the domestic violence charge, Mr. Rensel. I don't remember anything about a domestic violence charge, so I'm sorry. Fair enough. Who asked you to come to this common law court? It might have been Schaefer, I'm not sure. Mr. Barney, perhaps? I'm not sure, I don't know, I don't remember. What do you think? Let's just take the gun charge, just the one you recall. Affirmative. So you voted to acquit him, yes? And he provided testimony, right? Yes. Anybody cross-examine him? There were people that asked him questions, yes? Affirmative. Nobody from the state of Alaska was there? Not that I know of. So tell the jury what the operative effect of this guilty verdict was. Guilty verdict. Or not guilty, excuse me, the not guilty verdict. I don't understand your question. Well, you rendered a not guilty verdict, right? Yes. Found him not guilty? Yep. Must have had an effect of doing something. Hopefully to put the state on notice that maybe they're going down the wrong path. That's how you interpret it? Yeah. You're part of the discussion of suing the state of Alaska officials involved with Mr. Cox's matter for the tune of about $2 million a pop? I don't recall that. Weren't part of that discussion? I don't remember. Do you know that? I don't remember that. Court issued paperwork, and Mr. Cox served paperwork on the state of Alaska for about $2 million apiece, and then some for those individuals who were involved in this case. I heard he served paperwork. I didn't know. Didn't inquire about that paperwork might have been? No. Didn't think you might be yourself brought into court to answer some of the things that court had done? Certainly, I thought long and hard about signing my name, but I believe that it was something that needed to be done. You signed up for his militia? Yeah, I went to a training session, affirmative. You were on the on-call status list for a while, weren't you? I don't know about an on-call status list. How long were you a member of his militia? I don't know that I was ever an official member. I was associate with Schaefer for a long time. I was an advisor for him quite a while for his militia. You were an advisor with some other men, weren't you? Yes. Mr. Clark, yes. Phil Clark, affirmative. He was a younger brother. He has a younger brother named Isaac, affirmative. Several brothers. Mr. Hume, yes. He was an advisor, affirmative. Mike Anderson, do you recall him? I don't know that Mike was there in advisory capacity. I don't remember that. Affirmative. Okay, but we're talking about the Sons of Issachar, right? Affirmative. And that was a group, if I understand it correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that was going to provide sage, wise counsel to Mr. Cox. Hopefully, yes. Never happened, did it? Yeah, it did. But your group dissolved after a point in time, didn't it? Yes. And that was because Mr. Cox turned it into a militia? No. It was because Mr. Cox turned it towards the direction of a militia? No. No. You ever recall being in a meeting in February of 2010 with Mr. Hume, yourself, Mr. Cox, Mr. Zerby, Mr. Clark, about whether to somehow change the aspect of the Sons of Issachar towards the Alaska Peacemakers militia and voting on it? No, the Sons of Issachar were always an advisory group for the militia. So where are they now? Disbanded? Where were they in November of 2010? During I have trouble with the time. During what? Well, let's go to February 2011. Where were they then? All individuals, all disbanded. No one providing counsel to Mr. Cox? I don't know, I wasn't. Did you voluntarily disconnect your association with Mr. Cox, or what happened? Yeah, we kind of scaled activities back, yeah. What kind of act? What are you talking about? Well, Sons of Issachar activities. Yeah, we didn't have any more of those. I don't remember after one meeting with Clark Brothers. You would agree with me that Mr. Hume would have provided him wise counsel? Yes. Mr. Clark would have provided him wise counsel. I believe so. You would have provided him with wise counsel. I would have tried. I'm sure you would have, yeah. You would have? Yeah, Okay. Could we please have the lights, Madam Clerk? Can you pull up 535? And if we could go back to the top. Mr. Rensel, this is an email. Mr. Hume is here. Affirmative. And it's dated February 13th, February 23rd, 2010. Do you see that, sir? Affirmative. Maybe for Mr. Rensel, if we could, let's back out of that and I give him the full agenda. If you could look at that screen, Mr. Rensel, do you recall the email? I know there's some scribbling on it, but do you recall the text that's there? The type, sort of, the type, yeah, affirmative. The text looks familiar, yes. Okay, and it seems to be, there's a proposed agenda for a meeting, affirmative. That's what it says there, right? Affirmative. And if you could scroll to the top and enlarge that, that's the list of names here, Mr. Rensel, affirmative. And it says S of I militia, question mark. Do you see that? Affirmative. So I'm going to postulate that's the Sons of Issachar militia, question mark, affirmative. Do you recognize some of the first names here? Affirmative. Mike, Eric, Isaac, Philip, yeah. Dave Giesel, yes. Giesel, thank you. Sons of Issachar, affirmative. They are, yes, affirmative. Now on the right-hand side, you see your name there, correct? Affirmative. And then there's Steve Floyd, Schaefer Cox, Mr. Hume, Mr. Zerby. Do you recall a meeting like this? This is current, sir. Who are the only two people voting yes on this, at least in terms of this section here? I have no idea. Okay, well, if you can look, you can see. Looks like Schaefer Cox voted yes and Mr. Zerby voted yes, correct? I object. It's assuming it's some sort of vote. We don't know what that is. Well, that's a fair objection, counsel. Mr. Scrocky. I think you said you understood that this was going on. I think you understood what was going on here. Do you recall this meeting? Yes. Is there a vote being taken or a discussion? A discussion, yeah. About the Clark brothers wanted to have an election. What kind of election, sir? For the militia, and they had been studying. They thought that was the proper thing to do. I'm not sure I follow you. They wanted to vote on please explain it to me again. They want to have an elected leadership for the militia. Okay. And what's this vote? And what was this vote all about? I believe so. Are you sure? If it's too foggy, that's okay. I'm just trying to find out. Could you back out to the full? Sure. I'm not real positive that this meeting was about that. Okay. The vote. I don't see anything that would lead me to think that was what this one was about. All right. If you could have the lights, please. Do you recall a meeting of that type? Affirmative. Yes. And when was that meeting? When? Affirmative. I couldn't tell you the date. I don't know. I don't remember dates very well. All right. So was there a meeting to establish whether there should be a militia formed? No, the militia was already pretty formed. It was a meeting to decide whether to have an elected leadership or to continue having Schaefer the leader. I see, and you referenced earlier, if I recalled correctly, something to the effect of he would have been elected. Do you recall saying that about Mr. Cox? Affirmative. And that is in reference to this leadership vote for the militia. Yeah, affirmative. If he was put to an election, he would have won hands down. Okay, and so for what I'm trying to figure out, there was no put to a vote, was there? I don't believe so. Because Mr. Cox was already in charge? Pretty much, yeah. Did you ever buy an APM shirt, Mr. Rensel? No, I have one. Oh, they gave you one. Affirmative. How many rivets did you get? I didn't get any rivets. Okay, I think 3 rivets. There's 3 rivets on your shirt? I think so. On the collar? Yeah, I think. And did you have an occasion to attend any training function? I went to one training weekend. Where would that have been? A farm in Salcha? Who owned the property? The Clarks, I believe. You mentioned you know Coleman Barney. Affirmative. Were you ever asked by Mr. Barney to be a part of an exit team? I don't recall. I was asked to take Marty Cox home from the court one time, but I don't recall. Could we have... I don't recall an exit team. Alright, so he asked you to take Marty Cox home from court. I don't know if it was Coleman or if it was Schaefer. And can we have the lights, please? 196, page 18. Do you see that, sir? Affirmative. It says exit team. Is that your name listed there first and your phone number? Yeah, it's misspelled, but it is. But yeah. Yeah, whoops, right there at the top. Yeah. So you're not clear about what the exit team stands for? Is this the one for when he went to KJNP? I don't know. Did you attend that too? No. Do you know about it? I heard about it, yeah. Who did you hear it from? I don't know. Could have been Schaefer. Schaefer, could have been Coleman. Less likely, but could have been. And you heard about, that's an exit team at KJNP? They wanted to make sure there wouldn't be any trouble. Make sure there wouldn't be any trouble. Affirmative. What do you mean by that? Any trouble? Well, let me ask you this. You know Mr. Cox was going to be on television. Affirmative. And did Mr. Cox tell you about his federal assassination team that was after him? He did. I don't recall when, but yes, he's discussed that. And his security team, I'm sorry, you call it an exit team, right? So I'll use your word. I didn't call it. You called it that. All right, but you know about a team of some sort? Affirmative. Okay, so this team at KJMP was to protect Mr. Cox against these federal agents. Against whoever, probably federal agents, but yeah, they had talked about, or someone had talked about taking lights out there and lighting up the parking lot, and affirmative. And having guys with guns? It's Alaska, everybody's got guns, probably, yeah. Everybody in Alaska block traffic and ask people who they are at night under lights with long guns, 60 rounds apiece, and asking who they are, sir. Don't know that. You ever hear about anything like that ever happening in this state, Mr. Rensel? No, did not. News to me today. Never heard it before. No, except for this occasion at KJNP. Your tell, I haven't heard of this before. Well, Mr. Rensel, you answered it to me this. I don't want to quibble with you. This is Alaska, everybody has guns. Yeah. I'm asking you if you ever heard of anybody setting up a security checkpoint with lights and men on four-wheelers and semi-automatic weapons and body armor to protect someone like Schaefer Cox and identify people who are traveling on their freely associating with their own lives, traveling here and there. You ever heard anything like that before in this state? Not unless it was the government doing it. I like that answer. Not unless it was the government doing it. I like that answer. How about private citizens, Mr. Rensel? Not that I know of. How many people is it your understanding we're at KJNP? I have no idea. 5, 10, I don't know. Do you know what it means? No. With respect to the security detail, I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth. With respect to your assignment or whatever it was with Marty Cox, who else was with you, Marty? And nobody else? Nobody else. Can we have Exhibit 203? We'll be looking for page 7 and 8. Do you see your name on that page, Mr. Rensel? Affirmative, yeah. On the right-hand side, yeah, there. Affirmative. Under the word exit, yeah. Do you know what that's about? No. When you were with Marty Cox, were you carrying a firearm? Had a handgun in my truck. I wasn't carrying it. Okay, handgun in the truck. It's pretty Alaskan? I would think so, yeah. Hey, it's pretty Texan, too, by the way. Yeah, all right. 08, please. If we could roll up that part, if you could redo it. Do you see your name there, Mr. Rensel? Misspelled again, yeah. Yep, someone can't spell your name. Mine either. That happens to me all the time. So, under the courthouse exit team. Affirmative. There's your name. Is that your phone number, sir? Yes, sir. Right below. I guess you're 2 below in command of Ken Thesson. Do you have any idea what that's all about? What your name is there? I imagine that's when I took Marty home. Do you know who wrote this? No. Who asked you to do or to take Miss Cox home? I thought it was Schaefer. Were you also a member, sir, of the Second Amendment Task Force? Yes. Did you carry one of the cards that they had made up? No, I had a t-shirt. Okay, had you seen the cards that the Second Amendment Task Force had made? Probably, I don't remember them. Okay, we may as well show you one and try to see if it jogs your memory a bit. Okay, 302-21, do you recognize that, Mr. Rensel? I think I've seen it before. If we could have, let's go up one and see if it's the front of it. There we go. How about that, sir? I don't remember that specifically, but I remember a lot of those precepts, sort of in a general sense. Affirmative. All right, we go to 21, please. Mr. Rensel, do you see number 3? Yes, it says not a convict. Says not convict a firearms offense if you're on a jury. That's what it says. Is that something you would do? I don't know. I've never been on a jury. If a person's guilty of a heinous crime and it was proven in a court of law, then yes, I would convict. Well, I appreciate that, but this is a firearms offense. So, say for possessing an unregistered machine gun. Calls for speculation, Your Honor, Mrs. Hayden. Mr. Scrocky. He's a member of the group. The court, Mr. Scrocky, and it goes to bias. The court, the objection's overruled. Of course they overrule the objection. Absolutely insane. So what I'm asking you is if you were sitting in a jury and there was a charge for possession of an unregistered machine gun and you're a member of the Second Amendment Task Force, given what it says here in number 3, would you or would you not convict if it was proven? Aye. To you beyond a reasonable doubt. Well, don't jurors have the right also to judge the law? You're asking me a question? Usually I ask the questions, but I like this Bill Rensel guy.
Yeah, jury nullification.
Let me just read what he said again. Well, don't juries have the right to also judge the law?
Yes, they do.
Let me read Scrocky. You're asking me a question? Usually I ask the questions, but I'll answer that one for you. The court gives the instructions to the jury, and they have to follow the law. You don't get to choose. Oh, Mr. Scrocky, you're oh so wrong.
Yeah, they need to look up FIJA.org.
It's called Fully Informed Jury Association, FIJA.org. The answer, well, I don't think a juror could be made to do something that they think is immoral. And if the law was not constitutional, I think it would be immoral to convict on it. Amen. Yay! Woohoo! I like this guy already. Hey, Maria, you picked a good one. All right. What else we got here? Okay, here's Scrocky again. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing is that you wouldn't convict. Answer, depends on the case. I try to be good, moral person. I try to do what is right. I buy constitutions by the case and I give them out. I love this guy. I appreciate that, but what I'm trying to get at, sir, let's assume everything. The law's constitutional. Defendants have had argued due process and have argued that it's not constitutional, and it is. And the judge says that the law is constitutional, and it's a firearms offense. You can pick whatever firearms case you want, and it involves illegal possession of some sort of firearm. Would you be able to convict, or would you convict if instructed by the court to do so, and the case was proven beyond a reasonable doubt, or would you have some moral obligation not to? Miss Hayden asked and answered Traverso. It's also going far afield, Your Honor. I don't know what the pertinent relate. The court, the objection sustained. Traverso, thank you. Scrocky. If we could have the lights, Denali, thank you. Just one more series of questions, sir, back at Far North Tactical. Yes, sir. You saw Mr. Cox? Yes. Okay, towards the end of the altercation or the evening as you described it, yes. Did you hear Mr. Cox state any kind of plan that he had? No, I heard Bill Fulton kept saying that Mr. Cox was supposed to get a common law warrant and Mr. Fulton was going to serve the warrant, but I never heard Schaefer say anything about a plan. Okay, fair enough. It seemed like Schaefer didn't know what exactly Mr. Fulton was talking about. Oh, He didn't understand what Mr. Fulton was talking about. It seemed like Mr. Fulton was trying to push him into something. You don't know what Mr. Cox and Mr. Fulton met that night before. You don't know that Mr. Cox and Mr. Fulton met the night before, do you? Yeah, I do. You do. Were you there? Well, no, but they said that they had been there. They had been there meeting, so I assumed that. Yeah, they're both affirmative, telling the truth. Mr. Fulton looked like a guy who understands the common law de jure court. I don't know. That day he kind of looked like a drunk. So we've heard. That's all I have. Traverso, I have no further questions. Thank you, Mr. Rensel. No questions, no questions. Thank you, Mr. Rensel. You may be excused. I have one witness, Your Honor, but it's up to you whether you want me to proceed. Is that Mr. Clark? My next witness, no, is Mr. Gibson. Yeah, let's use the time we got. Okay, thank you. The court, if you'll come up to the witness box, if you'll enter the witness box there and stand far to the court, face the jury, raise your right hand, be sworn. Stephen Gibson, Defendant Cox's witness. Traverso. Steve, could you state your name for the record and spell your last name? My name is Stephen Gibson, last name Gibson. Mr. Gibson, are you employed at the present time? I am. Okay, and who are you employed with? I'm a member of the United States Army. Okay, I've been in the Army for about 5 years. Okay, I'm a military police officer. I've worked in a variety of positions, a patrol officer, a desk clerk, worked as a traffic investigator, and I'm currently working as a training officer. Okay, thank you. Do you know Francis Schaefer Cox? I do. Okay, and where are you stationed? I'm stationed at Fort Wainwright, Alaska. Okay. And what unit do you work for there? The 28th MP detachment. Okay. And is there an office there called the Provost Marshal? There is. Are you somehow associated with that? I was. Okay. Yeah, back in the summer of 2010 or June 2010, around there, were you associated with it? I was. Okay, my official capacity at that time, I worked as a desk clerk. Okay, at the station, all right. Sometime in June of 2010, were you working as a desk clerk? Did it ever come to your attention that Mr. Cox had been to your office? Yeah, it did. Was he there by himself or with somebody else? No, he had his wife and his son. Okay, one or two other individuals that I didn't recognize. He came into the station to speak with the Provost Marshal. Okay, this was not during my shift. It was, okay, I was alerted about it after coming into work. Okay, I worked the night shift. Okay, he had come in during the day. I saw it on video. Your Honor, I'm sorry to footage interrupt. If the witness could be instructed to limit his answers to the scope of the question. Miss Lamrow's already objecting again. The court, yes, try to do that. I think we're beyond the question here. Traverso, okay. Witness, okay. Traverso, you as the court and into hearsay. Traverso, were you well informed that he had been there during the daytime? Objection calls for hearsay. I saw it on video footage. Okay. Do you have personal knowledge? This answer may stand. Go ahead. Okay. So you saw it on video footage. I did. Okay. A recording. Do you know what the purpose? Do you know why Mr. Cox was there on the post? He's a civilian. Why was he there? Do you know? Miss Lamrow, objection. The court sustained. Insane that objection was sustained. Okay, was there anything, did you have any contact with anybody there regarding Mr. Cox? Somebody who wanted something about Mr. Cox? Yes, the FBI came in and the federal marshal came in while I was on shift. He came in, showed me his badge, and he told me that the FBI came in earlier and got a copy of some footage of Schaefer Cox. His visit when he came in, and he requested to have the same footage that had been given to them. So I consulted with my supervisor. They said that it wasn't a problem, and they allowed the federal marshal to come into the station, and they proceeded to burn a copy of the footage for him. Okay, did something transpire while you were there, while you were present? Did you have a conversation with one of those federal officials? I did. I talked with the federal marshal while he was there. A couple of patrols came in as well, and they were having a little difficulty with burning the CD for the federal marshal. So he was there at least 30 minutes. While he was there, he talked about, I asked him, I said, who is Schaefer Cox? Well, I basically wanted to know what the big deal was. Affirmative with the FBI. Affirmative. The federal marshal and stuff like that coming in there for this footage. Would that be consistent with your work as with the military police or with your job? With your job as a desk clerk there on the provost marshal's office. Everybody that would come to the station while I was on shift would talk to me at some, okay, I mean, I would be the first person. Okay, talk to anybody that would come to the station. All right, go ahead. While he was there, I asked him about Schaefer Cox, and he told me that Schaefer Cox was the guy that lived there locally in Fairbanks. He told me that Schaefer Cox, in his opinion, was crazy and was currently going through some issues with OCS. He said that Schaefer Cox, it looked like, was going to lose a son because he hadn't been participating with either a hearing or something to do with OCS. I don't know all the details with that. Affirmative. And his exact words were that some of the issues that been going on with Schaefer Cox and the OCS issue actually may resolve the problem that they may had, because he said that Schaefer Cox had made some threats in reference to OCS. He said that he had said that he was not going to give up his son and that he wouldn't let anybody take his family. And that, oh my goodness, did you hear that? He said he wouldn't let anybody take his son, or he wasn't going to give up his family to anybody. How horrific. He's not just going to give his son over to a tyrannical, evil, reprobate, devil government.
What a criminal.
Yeah. And I believe the exact verbiage he used was that Schaefer Cox would turn Fairbanks into a bloodbath before he would give up his child. And so the U.S. Marshal said, based off that statement, that when OCS would go to Schaefer Cox's house to get his son, law enforcement would be present. He also stated that they believed, based off his statement, that Schaefer Cox would probably use force to prevent them from taking his child, and that if he did so, that he would most likely be shot and killed in this scenario. That was basically, okay, I gave him the disc and the federal marshal. What did you mean by he said he would fix the problem? I don't know what the problem was. Okay, that the shootout would fix the problem. Objection calls for speculation. Okay, what was it that sustained Traverso? What was it that you thought he was referring to when he said fix the problem? You may not know the problem, but what was he referring to when he said fix the problem? Whatever the problem was with Schaefer Cox, if he was killed with OCS attempting to take his son, then obviously anything had to do with him wouldn't matter anymore. At some point after that, how did you respond, or what did you do? After the U.S. Marshal left, my supervisor was present, and so I consulted with him about it. He didn't want to get involved. He said he wasn't going to get involved, so I worked a 12-hour shift. I work in an office. I have a computer, stuff like that. So I got on the internet. I started to do some research about Schaefer Cox, and I started to pull up information, read about him, how he'd run for public office, stuff like that. I didn't see any reason. I couldn't tell that he was under any kind of criminal investigation or that there were any necessarily investigations going on at that time. So I looked him up on Facebook to see if he had a Facebook account, and he did. So I sent him a message. I told him I would like to meet with him. And he got back with me pretty quickly, and he told me that he would be willing to meet with me, and so we did. Why did you feel that you had to do that? My goal was to resolve an issue. I believe that if I didn't know whether there was going to be an OCS confrontation or not. However, I did want to be present. I did want to prevent one from occurring. If there was such a confrontation, and whether or not Schaefer Cox would have physically used force or not, if he did, a police officer could be killed. Maybe one of his family members could have been killed. Something, an innocent person walking down the street or whatever. So I wanted to avoid any type of thing like that happening. So when I talked to him, I told him, I said, hey, because I have had some experience with OCS working in my job and personally, so I was pretty familiar with the process, how to resolve the issue, because I was aware that this issue was primarily lack of communication with him. He wasn't cooperating as far as allowing them to do a checkup on his place with a child, stuff like that. So I talked with him. I explained a little bit about what was going on. I told him, I said, I don't know if you're having issues with OCS, but if you are, I think it would be wise in your benefit to get these resolved. I told him I recommended a psychiatrist there in town. I told him because he said OCS wanted to do an evaluation and see if his child was safe and fit to be in the home. He didn't believe it would be an honest evaluation. So I said, well, I know a psychiatrist who can also has a specialty in children. This psychiatrist could do a review of your son, and you could submit that as well. So with this other psychiatrist evaluation, and so he did that and resolved the OCS issue to my knowledge. And so once that happened, I wasn't aware there was an investigation going on past that. Okay, you took it upon yourself, though, to try to stop something from happening. Lamoureux, objection leading, court sustained. You just did this on your own, or you didn't do it because the military ordered you to do this? No. Okay, I did consult with an attorney to verify that the conversation that the U.S. Marshal had at the station, I was concerned that it could be violating maybe law sensitive. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't like a law sensitive conversation. I wanted to make sure that it was okay for me to talk about the conversation that happened at the station. And Gary Kluka, the head attorney at Fort Wainwright, Miss Lamro. Objection, hearsay, sustained. Okay, but you can't talk about what he. Okay, but you can't talk about what he advised you. Okay, but based on what he represented to you, what did you do? I did go and talk to Sheriff Cox on my own accord. Okay, thank you. It wasn't clear from your testimony, but did you know Sheriff Cox at all, or was that just something you Googled his name to get it from there with him? You didn't know him personally, right? No, I never met him before, never talked to him. Okay, in fact, until that day, I didn't know anything about him. Have you met with the FBI about your observations and what the actions you took after the event since Schaefer's visit there at Fort Wainwright? Since the event occurred at Fort Wainwright in June of 2010, I have, yeah. Okay, when was the last time you spoke with the FBI? I mean, it's been not long before this trial. Okay, when was the last time you spoke with Schaefer, Francis Schaefer Cox? I talked to him, it's been not since he's been arrested. Okay, have you ever met with him and his wife Marty? I have multiple times. And where was that at? I met with him at his parents' house, and then I believe one time we went from his parents' house, I followed him over to his house, okay? This would have been right before I believe he had a hearing or something going on here in Anchorage. Okay, thank you. I have no further questions. Cross-examination. Mr. Dooley, have you had repercussions for talking to Schaefer Cox? It would depend on how you look at it, I guess. Just for talking to him, no. Have you had repercussions? Because of my believed association with Schaefer Cox, I have. What are those repercussions? Somebody from the FBI consulted either with my commander or somebody in my chain of command. My commander flagged me, which in the Army, when your flag prevents you from promotion, prevents you from being able to re-enlist in the military, and I was right at my re-enlistment window. They flagged me right before I was able to re-enlist. They didn't remove the flag until after my window had passed, so in a way it was, I believe they call it, basically a bar de facto, where by flagging you, they were able to put me out of the Army. And when will you be out of the Army? I start clearing June the 5th, and June the 15th will be my last day. Can you believe that? This guy's just simply trying to help out of his own accord and do the right thing, and they kicked him out of the Army. Absolutely insane. Did you want to stay in the Army? I did. There was currently things that were going underway that they're trying to keep me in service. Who is trying to keep you in? My commander, my battalion commander, my brigade commander have all taken steps to try to keep me in. It is difficult due to the fact how close, obviously, it is to getting me out. Thank you. Miss Hayden, no questions. The court. Miss Lamro, I got my eye on the clock. Miss Lamro, I'm going to be more than 5 minutes. All right, have to ask you to come back tomorrow. Not tomorrow, Monday. Monday morning, boy, I have a hard time here. Monday morning at 8:30 we'll reconvene. So I ask you to come back at that time. And ladies and gentlemen, we're again facing a 3-day weekend here. Again, let me direct you not to discuss the case with each other or anyone else. Don't let anyone talk to you about it. Don't read, view, or listen to any news accounts. Don't do any independent research or any of the matters you've heard or discussed. Keep your minds open at all issues. You have not heard anything yet, and forget about it for the weekend and come back ready to go Monday morning. Okay, see you then. We have a couple more things to do. Counsel. The court, Mr. Dooley, you were going to provide some exhibits. I don't know if you have done that, CDs or whatever. Mr. Dooley, yes, sir, I have them ready to copy onto a CD-ROM. I've got to get my daughter to help me do that, sorry. All right, just a reminder. And also, I read the briefs you gave me. Do you file those? No, sir, I did not, but I can. I think they should be filed as part of the record. All right, yeah. Thank you, and this courtroom will be used by Judge Holland tomorrow, so keep that in mind. We'll hope Uncle Russ doesn't meet.
Is this the case where they leave their notes behind again?
It doesn't say.
I thought I heard them say that before.
Probably, yeah.
So that the judge and the prosecution can go and
Right.
sneak through them.
Yeah. That's absolutely right. So the jury leaves. This is what we've seen in the past. The jury leaves, but they leave all their notes and their pencils on the chairs. And the prosecution, they sneak in the courtroom after the fact and look at all their notes. All right. Here, let's continue. All right. Thank you. And this courtroom will be used by Judge Holland tomorrow. Let me get a reading on time again, Mr. DeVerso. What more do you have? Do you expect? I have several witnesses on Monday. Several. Who? What's your witness list in this? It's not very. Tell who you're going to. Tell any lawyers who you want to call, who you plan to call. Affirmative. Mr. Dooley, what's your best guess? Do you think you'll finish Monday, Mr. Traverso? Yeah, I think so, Mr. Dooley. Well, a problem we have is that on Monday we have an expert, Dr. Whitehurst. He's got a tough schedule, and we're hoping to put him on at 9 a.m. Obviously, we could wait a bit for Mr. Gibson to finish up. Any problem with that, putting a witness on out of order? Lamoureux, we'd like to finish with Mr. Gibson. Right, we could, yeah, okay, finish with Mr. Gibson, I'm sure. That's fine, it's fine. All right. Okay, and then Mr. Traverso finishes up later in the day. I anticipate maybe a day. All right, Miss Hayden, Your Honor, right now I anticipate 2 witnesses, someone from our office, and I can just get on the phone and call and have him over here, and also Special Agent Patrick Wasterhouse, and I believe it's just right across the street here, and he'll be on call. So you're talking about a half a day or more or less? No, I'm talking about 30 minutes maybe. Okay, what's your best estimate, rebuttal? 2 to 3 witnesses. It depends, obviously, on who all these witnesses are, and sure, they're going to say, well, I'm thinking about my weekend and how much time I have to spend on my jury instructions, and we'll keep plowing. It appears to me optimistic to think we'll finish next week. Okay, see you all Monday morning. All rise. This matter is adjourned until Monday at 8:30. This dishonorable court is adjourned, and Scrocky can crawl back in his hole under a rock and do drugs and praise Satan, because that's what Scrocky spends all his spare time doing. End of day 15.
Thank God.